वेव्स की तरफ से तरुण तरंग यानी कि यूथ विंग के कुछ मेंबर्स यहाँ पर प्रश्नकर्ता के रूप में उपस्थित रहे हुए हैं, क्योंकि युवा पीढ़ी का विषय उनके लिए रखा गया था, तो इसलिए हमने ऐसा सोचा और उनको आमंत्रित किया है। इसके अलावा भी कुछ और अलग से आएंगे, तो ये एक बात थी मुझे बतानी थी। और नाउ पैनल जो पैनलिस्ट हैं, they will be presenting their views, and after that discussants will ask the questions, queries also, and then floor will be open for question and answer. But this intellectual session, which is very special session, and it has to be conducted by a very renowned and very experienced person, by a very renowned and experienced person. So I think in this assembly, we have Dr. Divakar Shukul amidst us, and I invite Dr. Divakar Shukul on the mic. Please take the charge of conducting this program, inviting a panelist, and then question answer session. Afterwards, mic will go to Dikshit ji.
Thank you, Dr. Tiwari ji. Thanks a lot. Namaskar to everyone. May I invite Dr. Azad Kaushik ji first. Dr. Kaushik ji, we would love to hear your views on the importance of scientific interpretation of Hindu dharmas for our modern young generation. And it will be really good to hear what are the challenges you think we are experiencing in today's world, and why Hindus are experiencing, or young Hindus are losing their interest in Hinduism, and maybe some of your own experiences about Canada. Dr. Kaushik, please. Dr. Kaushik, are you there?
Unmute kar raha hu. Yes. Please unmute.
Okay, thank
Dr.
you.
Kaushik. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Shukli, for the kind invite and asking me to share my thoughts. It's very thoughtful of you and very kind of you. I'm thankful to the organizers for this kind of conference. I'd like to share my thoughts, and I'm so happy that I would be speaking with the young audience for whom this particular conference has been organized. Well, let me just share with you, I'm a pure academic and a scientist. I'm an immunologist by training. And getting into understanding of Sanatana Dharma, it has been journeyed through my life, essentially. And I'd just like to share my thoughts, and some of my views might be a bit radical, so you would kindly excuse me, because as an academic and scientist, I'm not afraid to speak my mind. Now, I would just like to start. There are 4 events in the history of humankind that cannot be explained by science. 1, these different civilizations, Babylon, Indus Valley, I mean, these sprouted independently of each other all over the world at the same time, almost. And that's what comes not from me, but from Kenneth Clark, from the famous series and book that he wrote on civilization. I mean, how do you explain why would these civilizations arise almost at the same time in different pockets, independent of each other? There's no scientific basis to explain that. Now, similarly, while the miracle of Ionia, Greece, where art, poetry, philosophy flourished, all of a sudden it happened, and there's no scientific explanation for that either. Similarly, the Industrial Revolution began with the invention of the steam engine. And this was an amazing experience that all of a sudden that the Industrial Revolution took over the world. And there's no scientific basis to explain that. And similarly, probably the biggest contribution of Indian civilization to the world thought is the origin of Dharma and spirituality that is unparalleled in the history of humankind. This is the biggest contribution of the Indian civilization, Indian Hindu Vedic civilization, to say it appropriately, has contributed to the world thought. And this reflects that we are a product of great intellectual order that existed in India at the time of our rishis and munis, when Vedas, Upanishads were written. So we have a great, glorious historical past. Now, the topic is very, very appropriate here, scientific basis, and I like it actually. And actually, that is why and how Sanatana Dharma has survived to the day, because it's very scientific in its origin. Now, if you would look at Dharma and spirituality, spirituality is as exact a science as science can ever be, because it is tied with the laws of nature. So spirituality is not something very, very off the mark. It's very, very scientific. It's very, very deep. It is deep into our consciousness. It is deep into our dharmic thought process. It is very deep into the Vedas, and that is why the world over Vedas are worshipped, even though. Now the question comes, I mean, I would even say, and people like Dr. Shukla and many of us would agree, why do we even have to convince our youth when they have such a great treasure of their own civilization that they are not familiar with, they are not educated with? And why we are having this conference is there's a disconnect in India. There's a disconnect in today's India and the India that our ancestors created for us. We are surviving for what our ancestors did. We would not survive with what our younger generation or even generations prior to that. We don't have to blame at all the younger generation. Many parents even don't know how to connect their children to their own culture and their civilization. And that's the root cause of this disconnect. Now, since I'm speaking with the youth, I just have to remind them a few things. As a scientist and academic, I owe all that I am to our Sanatana Dharma. I owe all that I have been able to do in my life to Sanatana Dharma. And I would give you some examples of that as we go along. But before I do that, I would like to share with you how deeply science is ingrained in our Sanatana Vedic Dharma. Well, if I would have to ask young people, what is Big Bang? Everybody would tell what Big Bang theory is. Everybody would talk about it. Everybody knows about it. But if I had to ask our young people, what is the first source of the very idea of Big Bang that we talk about today? Nobody would be able to answer that. The first description for Big Bang goes to our Rig Veda. And Rig Veda is the oldest book that humankind possesses to the day. It was retained through oral traditions by Brahmins in India, and then it was transmitted through book format when the paper was invented. Subsequent to that Rig Veda still exists to the day as the oldest book that humankind possesses. Now, in Rig Veda, there's a concept of Hiranyagarbha. That's a Sanskrit word intended to explain the theory of Big Bang. It's about the origin of the universe and how scientific is the very origin of universe. That's where our Rig Veda starts. This is not taught in schools. This is not taught in universities. Now, I would also share with you, you see, when I was a student in India, if you went in science stream, you were denied the opportunity to learn Sanskrit. And if you're denied the opportunity to learn Sanskrit, you are disconnected from your own culture. And I myself represent as somebody who is disconnected from one's culture because of lack of knowledge of Sanskrit language. I had some understanding because of Hindi language, fortunately. And I discovered the rest through my life through English language. Now, in this process, I have to state this shloka in English. Unfortunately, you would know it better. You are scholars of Sanskrit. You would know better that particular shlok as it should be in Sanskrit. But this is again about the origin of universe and life. And I'll state it in English, this shloka. From space came air. From air came fire. From fire came water. From water came vegetation. From vegetation came food, the source of all humanity. I am just amazed when I read shlokas like that in our scriptures. Even today in the Western part of the world, where I have lived most of my life, we are still questioning the theory of evolution. Even in scientific institutions or at the universities, when we have to talk about the theory of evolution, we have to state it, well, it might offend some people, what I'm going to say. Because of the religious reasons, some people would not be willing to accept the theory of evolution in the Western part of the world. But this is scientifically so valid and so true. It stands true to the day, and the entire scientific community believes in it, whether we like it or not. And again, and this shloka explains nothing but the theory of evolution that is taught around the world today. Now, I was visiting, I also had the good fortune of having darshan with Dr. Shuklaji, our Param Puja Shankaracharya Swami Nishalanand Saraswati Ji Maharaj. And a lot of research on Vedic mathematics has been done at the Govardhan Mutt in Puri. Hardly people know about that. And while I visited that mutt, I got a small book from a bookshop, Swastik Ganit. The swastik is made of 6 lines. These are simply 6 lines that are drawn that reflect the entire consciousness of the universe. And the entire theory of infinity is ingrained in those 6 lines. What an amazing scientific thought that led to origin of swastika, the consciousness. And then this reminds me of Ramanujan, the man who knew infinity. Every person in the Western part of the world would be learning about Ramanujan. Hardly Ramanujan would be talked about in Indian universities or scholarly institutions. I mean, this is a very vast topic. I can't cover all of that. It will take ages and the entire life to talk about it. I mean, you take any field, you take astrology, you take music, you take art, architecture, you take a look at the Sanskrit language, the most complete grammar that we have of any of the Indo-European languages. Everything that we have, just the temple art, the temple architecture, the very design, the Vastu Shastra, yoga. I mean, it is just the list is endless, and we can spend all of our time. But I'll just focus on a few other things. I'm an immunologist, and one of the things that has amazed me, a professor of anthropology from Harvard University, he created a series some years back based on tribal wisdom. The name of the series is Millennium. And this person goes all around the world and tries to collect the tribal wisdom that exists and how it applies to the modern world today. An amazing series that I'll recommend to anyone. It came in the 90s, it's pretty old now, but it has a lot of substance in it. Now, one of the things that came to my mind is that, well, you see that we have so many diseases and so many problems. Our medical science is highly advanced. We are able to control lots of infectious diseases, but still see how COVID-19 today has turned the life upside down all around the world. And that's what should tell us how, when we play with nature, what happens. So in this particular case, what the doctors did, they examined some patients with very critical diseases. And this interested me as an immunologist. These were cancer patients. Doctors had done all that they could do. And they said, there's nothing more we can do. They were essentially on palliative care and left to die. There was nothing that we could do more. All we could see them die. But there were some patients who were interviewed by this anthropologist professor who survived the cancer, whom the doctors said, well, you just can't. And they were interviewed and they were asked, what did you do? How could you survive deadly disease like cancer? There's nothing that we could do about. And these people said, going back to Indian philosophy and civilization, learning about mantras and prayers, whatever little mantras and prayers they could learn from the Indian philosophy, culture, and dharma, they practiced it. And they practiced it deeply. They just prayed, meditated, prayed, meditated, prayed. This is all they did. They were on deathbed. And then finally, they meditated and prayed so deeply that they even dreamt that their body cells are killing these cancer cells. And the cancer was put in remission, and these people recovered to a better quality of life. And then, as an immunologist, I recalled these mantras and prayers. They have a deep meaning. They are not just words. They have deep meaning deep in our psyche, deep on our biological system. And if I had to put it in scientific words as an immunologist, this is what constitutes, and this is what led for these people to protect themselves from deadly disease like cancer: neuro, immuno, endocrine, psychological axis. And this axis is very much there in human body. Neuro is brain, mind. Immuno is the immune system. Endocrine is the hormonal system. And then psychology, how the willpower, the strength, the inner strength that Dr. Shukla can talk more about than I can. And so that's how deep our scientific thought is ingrained in our Sanatan Dharma. Now, having said that, I'm also aware of the young people. People would say, well, you know, that, well, this is it. Well, yeah, there's no big deal about it. Many of these things would be termed like superstitions. I'll give you one more scientific example related to my field. Everybody in India had respect and prayed for river Ganges. Rishi Bhagirath brought Rishi Ganges to the earth for the benefit of humankind. And people said, there is something special about river Ganges. The water remains clean. Even as a child, I knew the Ganga Jal was always kept at home and nothing went wrong with this water. This water was so good. But this was turned into a superstition. I mean, oh, Hindus are superstitious people. Lots of our scientific thoughts or scientific observations were turned into superstitions. And then I have to just tell you back, this is not an old story, just 20 years back, a young girl from Roorkee University came to Canada to study, and she was asked to bring some Ganges water in a test tube. And I would tell you, this water was analyzed to the depth. And what our scientists here in Canada found, there are special kind of viruses, what we call phages, like viruses like COVID is for humans or bats. Similarly, there are phages, there are viruses for bacteria. The bacteria, the germs that cause disease. These phages, they exist in the Ganges water at the bottom of the surface, and they have the ability to kill all those germs that cause bacterial diseases in our gut. And now those bacteria those phages have been cultured scientifically. A company was started with the name Ganga Genetics. It has a branch in India also. And that phage is being used all over the world to clean our rivers and our lakes. And all I have to tell you about this, the way we have to come to govern ourselves, that Ganges, how unclean Ganges is. And despite the fact that nature and God gave us these wonderful phages to keep the water clean, it is not a superstition, it's a fact of science. Those are the kind of things I'll ask on our young people. Not to take things lightly when you make an observation in nature, not to ignore it. Try to understand about it. There is a scientific meaning and depth in it. Why people do what they do, there is a reason behind it. And we should always look for reason. And once we start looking for the reason, we would begin to understand science behind it. Now, all I would say is it's a pretty long talk already. There's a lot more that I can talk about. I have to speak at another spot. Dr. Shukri kindly offered me to speak first. It's very thoughtful of him. What I would simply say is, I have not seen our Sanatan Vedic Dharma, anything comparable to that, where there's such scientific depth in everything that we do. With those remarks, thank you very much for your kind patience. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Kaushik ji. Very thought-provoking, very powerful message, and very scientific and clinical interpretation of Hindu Dharma. Thank you. I mean, we'll invite you again and we will continue on this journey with you. Can you hear me? Thanks a lot. And
yes.
Dr. Kaushik, I know that
thank you very much,
Dr.
Shukri. Very kind of you.
I know that you have to join at another conference at 5:30, but if you can stay, and there may be a few questions from the panelists, if you can answer, that would be really great.
Yes, I do have another 25 minutes. So yeah, 25 minutes are there for the next conference. Right. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, that's fine. So we'll take the questions a little bit later. Let me invite His Holiness Raj Rajeshwarji. Raj Rajeshwarji, are you around?
Yes, I am. Namaste.
Guruji, pranam. Pranam. गुरुजी के बारे में मैं केवल एक चीज कहूंगा कि आज वेस्ट में, यूके और यूरोप में धर्म को अगर किसी ने कायम रखा है और धर्म को जिस तरह से आपने प्रमोट किया उसके लिए आपको शत नमन. I mean, this is what I say. You are the one who has created a platform to promote Hinduism. I know that you're associated with Queen and your Metropolitan Police, and your contribution to promote Hinduism in the West and particularly in the UK is so, I mean, that we have a sense of gratitude towards you. And I'm very much connected with His Holiness Raj Rajeshwarji. Guruji, I mean, you can speak in English or Hindi, whatever the way you want to communicate, because I know that you can, मेरा सवाल आपसे फिर वही है कि हमारे हिंदू धर्म को, आप तो you're dealing with the young generation in India, sorry, in the Europe and particularly in the UK. And I've seen in your temple in Siddhashram, a lot of young people are coming and joining, and I know that you're giving them personal attention. What are your views, how to really engage our younger generation? Maybe tell us a little bit more about some of the work which you're doing in terms of आपका जो संस्कार TV पे regular program आता है Sunday को. I was a part of that as well so many times. And just share your words of wisdom with us, Guruji. Thank you.
डॉक्टर साहब, सबसे पहले तो प्रणाम, और जितने भी महानुभाव जुड़े हुए हैं सबको मैं प्रणाम करता हूँ. मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा कि जो ये कॉन्फ्रेंस हम कर रहे हैं और उसके माध्यम से हम एक दूसरे की बातें, एक दूसरे का थॉट्स हम शायद जब लेन देन हो जाती है तो कुछ न कुछ परिवर्तन तो आएगा ही आएगा। जैसे कोविड की बात चल रही है, तो कोविड ने भगवान को प्रश्न किया कि भगवान देखो मैं कितना बलवान हूं आपसे, हर पूरे विश्व के मंदिर मैंने बंद करवा दिए। तो उसका उत्तर भगवान ने हंस करके दिया कि कोविड तूने तो विश्व के मंदिर बंद करवा दिए, मैंने तो घर घर में मंदिर चालू करवा दिया। तो ये जो बातें हैं कोविड को लेकर के, हम हिंदू धर्म की, सनातन धर्म की जब बातें करते हैं, तो सनातन धर्म जो है, सनातन मतलब ये है टाइमलेस, और धर्म का मतलब लो, जो हमारा एक ऐसा नियम है जिसका कोई अंत और अनंत है ही नहीं। और उसमें युद्ध की जब बातें करते हैं तो सबसे बड़ी कमियां मैं देखता हूं हमारे आसपास। और जब मैं प्रवास में रहता हूं, भारत में भी मेरा एक आश्रम है, इंग्लैंड में भी है, जब मैं मॉरिशस अमेरिका जब जाता हूं, तो मैं सबसे बड़ी कमियां जो मैं देख रहा हूं, उसमें जो माता पिता है अपने बच्चे को लेकर के जब मंदिर और धर्म के स्थान पे जाना चाहिए, उसमें बहुत कुछ कमियां हैं। और सबसे पहले उस कमियों को थोड़ा सा दूर करना बहुत जरूरी रहेगा, क्योंकि हम यूथ के ऊपर ही देखते हैं कि हमारे बच्चा ये नहीं कर रहा है, हमारा बात ये नहीं कर रहा है हमारा। मगर सबसे बड़ी कमियां है कि क्या हमने अपने बच्चों के लिए आधा घंटा या 1 घंटा निकाला है 24 घंटे में? हमने कभी पूछा बेटा तूने कुछ माला की, मंत्र जाप किया, कुछ मेडिटेशन किया? प्रभु ने जो हमारा शरीर दिया है उसका कुछ न कुछ तो हम टैक्स भरते हैं कि नहीं? हमारी इनकम में से हम गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स भरते हैं। मगर भगवान ने 5.5 फीट का जो बड़ा इतना 6 फुट का जो शरीर दिया है उसका हम कुछ नहीं भरते। तो सनातन धर्म और हिंदू धर्म की महानता साइंटिफिक रूप से ये है कि कुछ न कुछ हमको भी अपने यूथ को देना चाहिए। और दूसरी बात है, जो महानुभाव अभी बात कर रहे थे मंत्र की, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा, क्योंकि मंत्र की शक्ति के माध्यम से ही हम यूथ को साइंटिफिक वे कन्विंस कर सकते हैं। जैसे कि अगर मोबाइल का पासवर्ड हम गलत डालते हैं मोबाइल में, तो मोबाइल अनलॉक होता ही नहीं। वैसे ही जो प्रभु की एनर्जी है, डिवाइन एनर्जी है, उनकी भी पासवर्ड, मंत्र रूपी पासवर्ड हमारे पास, हमारे संतों ऋषि मुनियों ने सनातन धर्म की परंपरा में दिया है। और उसका थोड़ा सा साइंटिफिक रूप में अगर बच्चों को समझाया जाए, यूथ को समझाया जाए, तो मेरे ख्याल से यूथ उस प्रैक्टिस को बहुत अच्छी तरह से समझ पाएंगे। कई बार हमारे बच्चे पूछते हैं कि हम घर में घी का और तेल का दिया क्यों लगाते हैं? तो कई बार हम उसको उत्तर दे देते हैं कि भाई घी का दिया तो हमारे माँ बाप, हमारे पूर्वजों लगाते थे, इसीलिए घर में लगाना चाहिए। मगर उसका साइंटिफिक उत्तर नहीं दिया। जब तक वो साइंटिफिक उत्तर नहीं देंगे हम, तो शायद उसको कन्विंस नहीं कर पाएंगे। वैसे ही कई बार बातें होती है, हम दूसरे धर्म की बात क्यों करें, हम अपने धर्म की, अपने सनातन धर्म की बात करें। तो अपना सनातन धर्म एक ऐसा साइंटिफिक रीजन से बना हुआ है। हर चीज में हम बिंदी लगाते हैं तो इसके पीछे साइंस है, हम कुछ कपड़े पहनते हैं तो हमारे इसके पीछे साइंस है, हम भगवान सूर्य को जल चढ़ाते हैं तो इसके पीछे साइंस है, हम बैठ करके मेडिटेशन भी करते हैं तो उसके पीछे भी साइंस है। यानी कि ज्ञान और विज्ञान एक सिक्के की दो बाजू है। जो हमारा सनातन धर्म इसको अपने आप में पुरवार कर सकता है कि नहीं, ये बात सही है। जैसे कि हम एक सिंपल सी बातें करें कि बीज मंत्र क्या है। मंत्र की जब बात चली तो मेरा सब्जेक्ट ही रहा है मंत्र का और कुंडलिनी शक्ति का और श्री यंत्र विद्या के ऊपर। तो सनातन धर्म की एक विशेषता है कि हमको जो भी पसंद है, हमारे पास बहुत चॉइस है, उस चॉइस में से कुछ भी हम ले सकते हैं। जैसे कि बीजोक्त मंत्र की बात करें तो बीज मंत्र क्या है? तो बीज मंत्र एक ऐसा मंत्र है, जैसे पीपल के वृक्ष की हम पूजा करने जाएंगे तो सालों लग जाएगा, मगर पीपल के बीज की हम पूजा करेंगे तो 2 मिनट में उसकी पूजा पर्याप्त हो जाएगी। मगर वही बीज अगर जमीन में बोया जाए, फिर वो पीपल का वृक्ष, उसमें पौधे में से पेड़ बनेगा, तो हम गर्व से कह सकते हैं कि हमने पूरे पीपल की पेड़ की पूजा की है। वैसे ही बीज मंत्र जो है, सीड मंत्र जो है, वो श्रापित नहीं है। उस मंत्र का इस कलयुग में तुरंत उसका प्रभाव पड़ता है। जैसे हमारे डॉक्टर साहब के साथ कई बार हम संस्कार टीवी पे शाम को 8:40 को एक स्पिरिचुअल जर्नी मेरा कार्यक्रम आता है, आज भी आएगा शाम को। तो उसमें डॉक्टर साहब के साथ हम कई बार चर्चा कर चुके हैं कि 10 महाविद्या क्या है, हिंदू धर्म में क्या जरूरी है। और डॉक्टर साहब आपको भी प्रणाम और वंदन करता हूं कि आप इंग्लैंड में रह करके बहुत कुछ सनातन धर्म के लिए कार्य कर रहे हो, हिंदू धर्म के लिए कार्य कर रहे हो। आपने बताया मेरे बारे में कि मैं कुछ कार्य कर रहा हूं, मगर डॉक्टर साहब अगर आप जैसे सहयोगी नहीं होते तो हम कैसे कर सकते हैं। एक पंछी बहुत आकाश में उड़ता है, मगर दोनों पांख अगर उसकी नहीं होती तो पंछी कैसे उड़ सकता है। तो वैसे ही जो आप जैसे सहयोगी होते और है, इसीलिए संसार के अंदर हम ऐसा कार्य कर सकते हैं। मेरा आपका जो प्रश्न है उसमें अंत में मैं इतना ही कहूंगा कि हर माँ बाप को मैं विनती करूंगा कि सनातन धर्म की उस संस्कृति और सभ्यता को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए माँ बाप को अपने बच्चे के लिए थोड़ा वक्त निकाले। आजकल तो माँ बाप नहीं निकालते, ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स निकालते हैं और दादा दादी निकालते हैं, माता पिता नहीं निकालते। अगर बच्चे को पूछा कि आपको संस्कार कौन देता है, तो उसने कहा मेरी नानी ने और मेरी दादी ने। तो इसीलिए ये भी एक सभ्यता है, हर घर में एक नानी और दादी, एक नाना और नानी होना चाहिए, जिसके माध्यम से हमारी सभ्यता जो है बच्चे को सिखा सकते हैं। क्योंकि माँ बाप तो सुबह से उठ करके सोचते हैं कि चलो मैं कैसे काम करूं, कुछ कैसे मैं कार्य में आगे बढ़ाऊं, मगर दादा दादी जो होता है, नाना नानी जो होता है, वो ये सोचते हैं कि मेरे पोते को, मेरी पोती को मैं संस्कार की कौन सी बूंद उसके जीवन में डालूं कि जिसके माध्यम से वो परेशान नहीं हो। मेरा डॉक्टर साहब कहना इतना ही है।
Thank you, Guruji. Thanks a lot. My father says to my daughter, he says कि we have a grand connection. मतलब ये है कि मैं ग्रैंडफादर हूँ, मेरी डॉटर जो है दिव्या, शी इज ए ग्रैंडडॉटर। तो वो कहते हैं हम लोगों का ग्रैंड कनेक्शन है, और जिस तरह से वो उन दोनों की रिलेशनशिप है, या मेरे फादर की अपनी डॉटर हमारे बच्चों के साथ, मेरे ब्रदर्स के और मेरे बच्चों के साथ जो रिलेशनशिप है, इट इज एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी, एंड व्हाट दे आर लर्निंग फ्रॉम द ग्रेट ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स इज समथिंग दैट वी आर वेरी प्राउड ऑफ। लेकिन बहुत जरूरी है गुरुजी जो आप कह रहे हैं कि एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली एंड ऑल दिस, दैट इज अ पार्ट ऑफ आवर लाइफ, बिकॉज दैट्स हाउ वी यूज्ड टू लर्न a lot about our culture. Do we have Norbert here? Are you around, Norbert? Dr. Norbert? If you can introduce yourself here, that would be really wonderful. Right. So, Guruji, it looked like that Norbert is not here from Germany yet, so we can continue. Is there anything else you want to share, Guruji, before I continue?
मैं तो डॉक्टर साहब एक चीज और कहना चाहूंगा कि सनातन धर्म और संस्कृति के लिए घर के अंदर हम बहुत कुछ रखते हैं, मगर घर में एक रामायण, भगवत गीता या तो कोई भी एक आध्यात्मिक ग्रंथ अगर रखा जाए,
बहुत सुंदर, बहुत सुंदर।
तो मेरे ख्याल से कहीं ना कहीं, मुझे एक प्रसंग याद है कि घर में एक चोरी हुई थी। तो एक पिताजी जो थे वो अपनी बेटी को हर वीक में 100 रुपया देते थे, 100 रुपया देते थे कि भाई बेटी एक खर्चे के लिए तुझे मैं दे रहा हूँ। तो बेटी ले लेती थी और बेटी अपने मंदिर के स्थान पे जाकर के रामायण का जो पुस्तक था उसके अंदर रख देती थी। तो एक दिन पिताजी ने कहा कि बेटा तू ये रामायण के पुस्तक में क्यों रखती है, ये जो मैं तो तुझे खर्चे के लिए देता हूँ, तू क्यों रखती है। बोला ठीक है पापा, कभी मेरे पास लॉकर आ जाएगा ना, मैं रख दूंगी, कोई बात नहीं, मगर अभी तो मेरे पास ये भगवान के चरणों में रख देती हूँ, तो चलो कहीं ना कहीं कुछ न कुछ तो होगा। तो एक दिन उस घर में चोरी हुई, घर का पूरा सामान चोर उठा करके ले गया। और फिर पिताजी चिंतित हो गए कि बेटा घर में तो कुछ लाने के पैसे भी नहीं है, क्या करूं। बेटी ने कहा पापा 1 मिनट ठहरो, मैं मेरी रामायण की पुस्तक में जो आपने पैसे दिए थे ना, मैं शायद देखता हूँ कि शायद चोर ने वहां से नहीं लिया होगा। तो पुस्तक खोली तो उसमें से कम 5,000 रुपया निकल गए। तो पिताजी ने कहा बेटा वास्तव में तूने अच्छा काम किया। तो बेटी ने ही कहा पिताजी मैंने लॉकर में नहीं रखा, आपने जो पैसा रखे मैंने भगवान के चरणों में, रामायण के ग्रंथ में रख दिया। चोर तो ये नहीं उठाएगा ना, रामायण के ग्रंथ नहीं उठाएगा, क्योंकि चोर की वृत्ति होती है चोरी करने के लिए। तो इसीलिए घर में अगर ऐसे ग्रंथ रहेंगे तो मेरे ख्याल से घर में संस्कृति और सभ्यता बड़ी रहेगी। और ये भी निवेदन करता हूं कि आप संस्कृत में, हिंदी में ग्रंथ रखते हो तो इंग्लिश में भी रखो। कहीं ना कहीं आपका बेटा, आपका बच्चा एक पन्ना भी खोल करके पढ़ लेगा ना, तो एक सनातन धर्म की, हिंदू धर्म की एक बूंद उसके जीवन में, उसके मन में चली जाएगी। मेरा यही निवेदन है।
थैंक यू गुरुजी, थैंक यू। आप तो अभी रुकेंगे बिकॉज वी हैव अ पैनलिस्ट, उसके बाद डिस्कशन है। पैनलिस्ट आपसे और डॉक्टर कौशिक जी से कुछ सवाल पूछेंगे। Norbert ji, if you're around, could you please introduce yourself? Okay. Whenever he's here, I think we'll invite him. There may be some technical problems. Let me share some of my thoughts on why we need to give scientific interpretation of Hindu Dharma. Because what I have noticed that a lot of young population or younger generation, they are very left hemisphere oriented. So they need a logical understanding about what we are trying to do. And unfortunately, this 1,000 years of slavery has destroyed the confidence of most of the Hindus in the modern world. And particularly last 60, 70 years, where we have noticed that, if you're Hindus, it means there's something wrong. And people, we had a wrong interpretation of Hindus. So we have been told that Hindu is not a word. It is basically given to us by the invaders, etc. But when I was listening to Shankaracharya ji of Puri, what he said, Hindu is a Sanskrit word, and it comes from the Rigvedic mantra, where it says about hin, do. He plus do means that, jo hin bhavna ko dur kare, anything that can remove the feeling of inferiority, that is called Hindu. And then he also said about that in Rigveda, there is something called Abrahpati Agyam, where he said, Himalayam Ismarasim Yavat Indu Sarovaram Tat Dev Nirmit Devam Hindustan Prachasate. हिंदुस्तान से, हिमालय से हिंदू सरोवर तक सब निर्मित देश को हिंदुस्तान कहा गया। उसी तरह शैविज्म में हीनम च दुष्यतेव हिंदू रिचते प्रिय, जो अज्ञानता और हीनता का त्याग करे उसे हिंदू कहते हैं। What does it really mean? That, what we have noticed that for a long period of time, we have been told that, if you're following Hinduism, it means that there's something wrong. When we have been told that, Vasudev Kutumbakam, तो वासुदेव कुटुंबकम की भी इंटरप्रिटेशन बहुत अलग ढंग से की गई कि सब लोग अपने आप को, जैसे कल मैं शंकराचार्य जी को जब सुन रहा था तो उन्होंने कहा हर चीज एक मर्यादा में है, जब तक वो मर्यादा में है तभी तक वो यूजफुल है। जैसे अगर वायु मर्यादा में है, जल मर्यादा में है, अग्नि मर्यादा में है, तब तक वो यूजफुल है, नहीं तो वो डिस्ट्रक्टिव हो जाती है। वैसे ही हिंदू धर्म के साथ भी एक मर्यादा की आवश्यकता है, और somehow we have lost that maryada because media has been attacking us. I mean, we have noticed that even in our today's event, someone has tried to destroy this event by, by making कि हमारा program hijack हो गया, writing, ugly messages.
Dr. Divakar Sukul, sorry to interfere. Please, you can see. Dr. Robert, perhaps.
Oh, he's here? Okay.
Robert,
Dr. Robert, are you around? Could you please? So I will continue later. Can we hear from you, Dr. Robert? If you're there, can you unmute yourself and start your video?
I have unmuted him.
Excellent. Oh, fantastic. So, Dr. Norbert, can we hear your journey? And we know that what you have contributed and the way you have been on the journey for past 20 years, you have been extremely successful businessman and you have left everything. Now you're following Hinduism and you're promoting Hinduism. I read a lot about you and it might be good for us to hear more from you. Norbert Ji, please.
Namaste. Thank you very much. It's a great honor for me to be among all these educated and enlightened people. And starting with Dr. Kaushik, I would like to start my point of view by saying I'm the furthest away from all of you from Sanatana Dharma by natural birth, being born in Germany and not in India. But one of the first things I learned, even though unfortunately I don't speak Sanskrit, apavitra pavitrova, savavastan gatopiva, yasmaret pundari kaksham sabaya byantra chuchi. Everybody knows what it means. Wherever you open your consciousness to Chaitanya, the purity of consciousness, you can accomplish it. There is no condition in terms of time, political or other conditions. It is up to you, it's your birthright, even if you're not an Indian. So that was the challenge. And I've been practicing yoga for almost 50 years. I started very early, in the early 70s. And I studied Vedanta. I studied Jyotish. I practiced Jyotish in the Western world, meaning I have, again, the furthest distance I could possibly have. Nobody here has any idea about Sanatana Dharma, but my clients are practicing Upaya. They are practicing Yagya technologies with the help of Pandits in Varanasi. So apparently I've been able to bridge this huge discrepancy of understanding. And maybe the easiest way of showing how this works was when I was giving lectures in Bihar to very, very simple people, very beautiful people, very nice place, very quiet, very natural, lots of green. And I told them, look, in your tradition, call it Hinduism, call it Vedic tradition, call it Sanatana Dharma, you talk about 33 million gods, devatas. It's an absurd concept for Western thought, but you believe in that. But we in the West, we found other things that are very similar. We call it laws of nature. Let's compare the two. Is a law of nature visible? No, it's not visible. Devata is not visible usually. Law of nature is always functional. Devata is always functional. And there's a secure delivery if you invoke the Devata or apply the scientific formula. So it's actually the same. It's just described in different words. And now the next level is that the Western people, they put their secrets and their findings in numbers and letters. Now let's say there was another intelligence outside the earth and we would like to communicate with them. Which letters would we use? Hindi, Arab, so-called Roman? Are we sure these aliens would understand what we mean? Most likely not. Now, what is the Vedic solution? Instead of numbers and letters, they use sound and rhythm, mantras. And they describe exactly the same phenomena. And the difference is they give a much more evaluated and refined reasoning and description of mechanics and practical application than Western science. And so the major step ahead from the Western side towards the Eastern and Indian wisdom, in my understanding, was made roughly 100 years ago here in the West by German scientists, which we call today quantum mechanics. Now, quantum mechanics, in our understanding from a Vedic point of view, is nothing but showing the importance of subjectivity, of consciousness, because consciousness makes the difference between a wave and a particle. And that is science, not philosophy, and it's beyond any background of thought that one might have. And it's magic. It's way beyond mechanical understanding of life the West has developed since 250 years of the so-called Age of Enlightenment. So quantum mechanics was the opening of the Pandora box as far as Western understanding of the mechanics of life is concerned. And the names Heisenberg, Planck, to a certain extent, even Einstein, are closely related to that. So the next thing that happened in the 0 years actually was another breakthrough of Western science in the field of neurobiology. And again, the aspect of subjectivity and objectivity is touched and scratched and actually debunked. The Western understanding of reality has finally been debunked by understanding the neurobiology. With all the experts on the panel, I just want to reduce it for the common understanding of a non-medical person that they found by measure, not by anticipation or hypothesis, they found in the late 50s that there is a time slot between what you do and the decision making within your brain. So that could be measured in terms of hundreds of seconds before you would decide you're in a restaurant, you decide you have another dessert, and you think, oh no, I shouldn't, you go back and forth, and finally you order it, and the scientists could show you that 100,000th of a second before the decision was made in your brain, and you assume it is your free decision, but it's based on what we would call sanskaras. So it's past impressions that shape the decision, but not with the object inside your brain before you are aware of your decision. So combining quantum mechanics findings and neurobiology findings, you arrive at Vedanta. You arrive that Chaitanya is the most precious commodity of human life. It's a very simple story. People are fighting for commodities as long as we know history, if we exclude the Sat Yuga maybe. All the time we are fighting for all kinds of commodities, and as blind as we are in these days, we don't understand that there is a commodity that is infinite by nature, is owned by everybody naturally. And the ultimate kick is all the commodities by use, they get less, they diminish. Through the findings of neurobiology, through the findings of morphogenetic.
Ayush Agrawal,
Pardon?
do you know Ayush Agrawal?
No, please don't talk. Continue. No, but please continue. So there's somebody talking. Sorry for that. Carry on.
Okay.
Carry on.
No, sorry. The point is that this commodity gets more if you use it, not less, like water, oil, gas, gets less if you use it. It's transformed into something, but this one is adding up. Whatever, there's a saying in neurobiology, whatever fires, wires. So by your attention, this is Western science. You create your brain in a little exaggerated formulation. So studying the Vedic thought for more than 45 years, every day, making the experience between difference of subjectivity and objectivity, I created a system which is called Life Formula, where it is the synthesis of Western latest scientific findings and most ancient Indian thought of Vedanta, basically. And in just not to take too much time, I would like to conclude at this point by just summarizing the idea here. Again, taking as my own advocatus diaboli, taking the furthest possible position to start to bring anybody, whatever age they are, whatever cultural background they might have, in a logical step by step into a simple understanding of Vedanta, actually. And I only need 4 concepts and 3 interfaces. And the first concept is what we call metta. If we take anybody, any atheist, any holy man, any dumb person or genius, and ask him on a simple level, what do you see if you look around in the world, the universe, your surroundings? He will find trees, walls, doors, water, etc., cars, animals. This is metta in different shape. Now, everybody of us has learned in school that matter is nothing but energy in different shapes, in different frequencies, densities, etc. So the second word we need is energy, because all the matter is nothing but condensed energy. Now the next question is, what is energy? On a mechanical level, plus, minus, friction, etc., mechanics. But on a quantum mechanical level, we have learned there's no distinction between wave and particle unless some consciousness is put onto it in simple framework wording, and that makes the difference. So we can call it vibration from a mechanical understanding. The modern day understanding is virtuality. It's a field of possibility. It's subatomic. It's on the strings and quarks level and beyond. That's the latest understanding of the 70s, which hasn't developed, by the way, until today, because they're not looking for the ultimate thing. And the ultimate thing, of course, what vibrates, if you understand it from the mechanical point, what can vibrate, which must be more refined than subatomic and virtual reality? And the simple answer is consciousness. And I tell the Western people, in your Bible, the first word says, in the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was with God. Now, what is the Word? It's a vibration of your tongue, some vibrations that your ears as an antenna can receive and transform it into a concept in your brain. So the Word is sound, and the sound was with God. Now, what is God? God is existence. We know it's Satchit Ananda. We have a very simple idea what that is. So the Bible even says, in the beginning there was Chaitanya, it became aware of itself, that created Ananda, and Ananda is spreading throughout what we call universe, or the one universe that we are aware of. So this is the idea, and as abstract as it may sound, I'm doing this with 10-year-old kids that coming with their parents because they are disturbed and confused by the Western system of education, and they don't find anybody who can explain to them what they like to know. And I show them yantras. I tell the mother before, after looking at the chart, he will hate this one because this is his weak planet, and that is why he's doing so bad in English. And he will love this one because this is Rahu, and his Rahu is so great, and that is why he's full of enthusiasm. And I translate this ancient Parashara system into day-to-day living as a mechanics. And the horizon is to reach a Vedanta understanding of life through understanding, in their Western terms, a precious commodity, which is yours. You only haven't understood how to use it. And once you start using it, your life will change immediately by using some mantras, by doing some upayas, by starting meditation or yoga. This is working. And I tell you, it is also working with Indian youth. I have Indian clients, Indian born people that live in LA or that live in Hong Kong that like to get this kind of understanding of their own roots. So I'm very optimistic that particularly now that we are facing the greatest change in human history that at least the Western books of history recorded. Okay, Mahabharata might be something different, but it is not known to the majority of people here. Our Western 2.5, 3,000 years of history has not seen what we are seeing now. And as a final conclusion, from a Jyotish point of view, I want to point out something which I haven't heard or haven't seen in the, what we call, let's call it markets of Jyotishjis and astrologers around the world. And I'm just focusing on Jyotish, of course, not the Western. There was a millennium constellation on the 26th of December 2019. We've heard a lot of COVID, and we know that the official record is that it broke out in October or November 2019 in China. And that from there it spread over the world. That is the narrative that we are up to date now. Now, on the 26th, there was a millennium constellation, which on a superficial look, what you saw was 6 planets in Dhanus Bhava. Now, but Dhanus Bhava is the most important of all Rashis. That is the reason why it's the Dharma Bhava, the natural best sign, best house, best Bhava, best Rashi. And this simple astrological, cosmological reason is that only through Dhanus we are able from the Earth, from our solar system, to see the galactic center. That is where the whole, all the other solar systems, including ourselves, we are circling this black hole. It is a manifestation of Shiva to some. So this is the real galactic center. And we only once in a while, during the winter solstices, we are reaching this VIP box in terms of looking into the real galactic reality. That's one of the reasons Jesus is supposed to be born on that day, just bridging back to the Western thought. This is why when Surya is in Dhanus, this is very auspicious because of that. Now, on 26th of December, there was a Grahanam, an eclipse, and there was another 4 planets around: Jupiter, Saturn, Ketu, and Surya, Chandra, and Buddha. Now we know Surya, Chandra, and Buddha is Ahamkara, is the ego, is the individuality. I am, I feel, I think. That's me. And Chani and Guru are the karma planets, individually and collectively. And if there is a solar eclipse on this most auspicious timing, facing the galactic center and having the Ahamkara around, the last time this happened was 6,500 years back. Now, 6,500 years back, if you ask the historians, mankind discovered 2 things: the wheel and agriculture. The wheel is the basis of our technology, including the iPhone and the Zoom conference we are having. And agriculture is the basis of what we call civilization, culture, because we don't have to run around the cauliflowers in our garden. That is the quantum jump we made 6,500 years according to history and according to Jyotish constellations. And in 2019, end of December, we also had Pluto there, which has a time of going through the zodiac of 240 years. So another little sidekick. What happened 240 years ago when Pluto was also going through Danus, just on the verge, going to Makara, Capricorn. 1780 is 240 years back. We're talking hundreds of years, so leave alone 5 years on the right or left. What happened in 1780? The USA was founded and the French Revolution took place, which gave birth to what we call enlightenment, to what we call science. So that is the pillar of the Western construction of the world, including all the things, the systems of international exchange. It means if this happened 240 years back, and we are facing a similar situation right now, and that is the Pluto aspect. And if we go back to the Millennium constellation, what we see is there was a historic event which we didn't notice. We found out a couple of weeks later through China, 50 million in isolation. And again, another last word I have to say on that, which has been ignored, which is amazing to me as a Westerner. There is some concept called Guru Chandala Yoga. It is when one of the nodes is along in a same Rashi with Guru. So it traditionally referred to Rahu. And in India, it is considered very negative because they say the light of the wisdom of the Guru is overshadowed in some fog or some smoke of Rahu, and that is misleading. That is why Parashara said it is the time of false gurus. So, but Parashara also says Ketu is like Rahu, Rahu is like Ketu. So it means if Ketu is along with Guru, it's actually a much more powerful yoga if you consider it as misleading, because Ketu is ruling the ultimate misleading and illusion, as well as moksha and the ultimate recognition of life's reality. So we had a Guru Chandala Yoga last year as of November 4th when Guru was entering Danus because Ketu was waiting. So we had another karma planet in there. So this is the quantum mechanical situation that has been developing ever since. Look at the world's history since then. COVID turned it upside down, dismantled the world order that has been established after World War II. Science is doubtful, politics is doubtful, economy is destroyed, science and democracy are doubtful. So we are looking at a century movement already on all levels. And according to Jyotish, we are looking at something much bigger. And now the final conclusion is that the only development that we can see that will be healthy is to understand what is our most precious commodity. And India has been the custodian of this secret key to lock it up, not lock it up, but unlock it, unlock the lockdown inside. If you cannot meet in space, meet in time. If you cannot meet in physical reality, meet in coherence of thought and understanding and cognition. And I think this is the time of cognition for each and everybody. Leave alone we are born here or there. And of course, India has to take the guidance, the same way you silently took the guidance in the IT business. You know, just because, why? Because you know about consciousness. And IT is nothing but a replica of basics of how consciousness works. And with this, I would like to conclude because there's so many other people that have definitely so many more intelligent views on the current situation than me. And again, I would like to express my deep gratitude being invited into this panel.
Thank you, Norbert. It's so wonderful. It's so good to hear what you said and the way you connected the understanding of the God, where we just talked about the Satchitanand. There's one infinite, eternal, changeless existence. The all from that all comes from, to that all returns, one only, without a second. That is called Nirgun Brahma. And this is what Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma is talking about. Basically, Satchitananda means that we are born from Satchitananda. It's like water. Whenever water is flowing, it's flowing toward the river is flowing toward the sea. And fire is going upward toward the air because it's their origin. And that's how we are as a human being. We are born because we want to achieve this Satchitananda. There's something what also you said very, very beautifully. You mentioned something that is called Guru Chandala Yoga. Now, a lot of people, I had a lot of questions about when I used to go to the pilgrimages in India, like, when you go to Kashi Vishwanath or any other places, you will find, and you can get so badly distracted because people say, oh, a lot of people are demanding so many things, etc. And I was with one of the Vedic scholars, and he told me one thing. He said, because all these places, they have a very high level of vibration. And they are also got something called Guru Chandal Yoga. Guru Chandal Yoga means that anything that what you're looking from outer side, there's something much more deeper inward. It means that if you don't get distracted by the external world, then only you can go to the deity or to the God or to the garbhagriha of all these holy places in India. And if you get distracted because we are just concerned about, someone is asking 100 rupees or 500 rupees or demanding this or that, and your distraction means that you're getting affected by the Guru Chandal Yoga. So I'm sure that something beautiful will come out of this, what you just mentioned about the Guru Chandal Yoga, because it is all about awakening and not losing the focus. There's something what you mentioned about the 33 crores, Devi Devta. Basically, in Indian tradition, we have 33 koti. Koti means 33 different types. And when we talk about these 33 different types, we talked about, 8 vayus, means earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and then sun and moon. These are 8 vayus. Then we talked about the 11 rudras, which are related to the pranas. Like we have 10 pranas. For example, pran, apan, saman, like all the vital forces. Even when you're sitting, it is because your vital force is balancing you. When somebody is unconscious, they become very heavy, right? So all these 5 pranas and then 5 upranas, they play a very significant role. And ultimately, Rudras represent, Rudra means crying. And when the soul leaves the body, then people start crying. So Rudras are there. So we have 11 Rudras. Then we have 12 Aditya, means they are God, sun God. So son of the sun God means these 12 seasons, they have a different energies and different vibrations. That's why you see that each and every month we have a different vibrations, etc. Then we have one Indra, like when you were talking about the electromagnetic field, neurotransmitters, etc. How the neuron travels. This is what is called Indra, because all the electricity, all the neurotransmitters are managed by Rudra, and one person who is watching it is called Prajapati. So basically, Yagna means he's an observer, making sure that everything is properly aligned, etc. So this is the interpretation of what we call about the 33 types of God or energies, because we know that even the stone, like when you were talking about the vibration, we know that the stone looks very solid, but if you go deeper inside that, there's a vibration. That's why in Indian term, though the some of the sayings are that karn karn mein ram hai, means each and every, even the sand, it got its own vibration. That's how the mantra started. because man and tra means, man means mind and tra means instrument. And we understand that everything is a vibration. We are just nothing else except the combination of different atoms, and we are vibrating. And that's why, like, for example, you have given a very beautiful example about how to really, using the energy or mantra to unfold the power of the universe. The simple example, if we know about the Reiki healing, that these Reiki healers, what they have, they use the certain symbols, and it's like TV you have, and then you have a remote in front of you, and you can switch on the TV by using the remote. That's the same thing with the mantra, because mantra creates vibration. That's the reason when we understand about the mind talks about three different things, like recording, and then the power of discrimination, and then the identification. But any sort of language, if suppose someone says good to you or something good to you, you feel good. If someone says something which is ugly or annoying, you feel you strongly react to that, because this is all the vibrations. I think there's so many other things we need to talk about. For example, that what is the concept of reincarnation, why we are reincarnated, what happened after when we leave the body, what is the concept of Varna Vyavastha, because there's so many confusions about Hinduism, and no one has really put it in a very scientific manner. In my understanding, it is like a big puzzle. And like, why we consider Ganesha as a first deity. But if you just connect it with the Vedic concept and the chakra, as you might be aware, that your Muladhara chakra is a vital force, right? But also when you connect it with Ayurveda, you will understand that it is a kapha, which represent the Muladhara chakra, kapha and water. Kapha means earth and water. And earth means that your body is made of these 5 elements, and that's why Ganesh, without the body, you cannot manifest the Satchitananda. Because within this body, the Satchitananda, that's why Devta wants to convert or come back to this, this earth, because here only there is a progression where you can really achieve the salvation. So everything is so wonderfully connected. Even when we are wearing the moli, like this red one, why it is red? Because red is the representation of the vital force that is our blood. Why we use the havna or yagna? Because when you're using the yagna, on your chakra level, there are only three things that work. That is, one is a sound, like mantra, then fragrance, and the fire, and fire means color. So all these things are interconnected, and what we are trying to do today is to just bring the different interpretations and bring a lot of people together. And we would love to invite all of you great speakers again and have a proper contemplation that how to move forward and how to present it to our younger generation. Like when you were talking about the Vedic astrology and the Parashara astrology, how significant when somebody is going through the period of Rahu, that if and if the parents are aware of it, then what kind of challenges this boy is going to face or girl is going to face, and what are the upayas, like what you're sharing there. Long time ago, let me tell you that I used to have my clinic in Nuremberg with one of my therapists. She was a psychologist, Doris Vela, and she was an expert in ancestor therapy. Like when we were talking about, when we leave the body, so some of the soul, they do not get another body, and we know that a lot of physical suffering what we experience in our life, they come because the Pitra dosh, or they may be Pitra. If they are not happy, they will come and then make you aware that I'm suffering, please do something about it. Why Hindu connected it, like 14 days or 15 days of Pitru Paksh, where we are offering the water and everything. And they say, And a lot of young people, they say, what is the point of offering water or food to? But what we don't understand, that it's all the connection and the intentions, bhava, that makes it completely different. So I'm so glad that what I heard from His Holiness Raj Rajeshwar Ji, Ajad Kaushik Ji, Dr. Ajad Kaushik Ji, when he was talking about when people start meditating and when we start, doing the mantras, then how they got rid of cancer, for example, when you shared the wisdom about the Chandal Yoga and the Satchitananda, and why the Sanatan Dharma, why the whole world is looking for something that can be a solution, because only the Sanatan Dharma works on the concept of coexistence and harmony, and each and everything is a living thing, so I think a lot of young people we can connect with. So thank you very, very much. I really appreciate your time and and your courage to give up everything and to follow the journey, and you inspire a lot of our younger generation today. I am very, very glad. I think we are now going into the second dimensions of it, and which is about, it's like about the discussion. May I just invite our panelists, if they have any questions, and please make sure that you ask questions and don't go for a very long interpretation. Can I just ask Dr. Shri Kiran Pandey to, if you have any questions to the panelists?
Thank you, Dr. Diwakar Sukul ji. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So I will thanks to all speakers, especially Mr. Robert and Dr. Ajad Kaushik ji and Sukul ji.
And Rajeshwar ji. Our guru, he's a Dharma guru in England.
Yes, Rajeshwar Guru ji. तो डॉक्टर दिवाकर शुक्ल, सबसे पहले मैं आपका धन्यवाद दूंगा कि आपने इन सब बड़े बड़े लोगों को इकट्ठा किया। आपने बात तो मुझे प्रश्न की है, तो मैं इस स्थिति में हूं सनातन धर्म के बारे में कि मुझे कोई प्रश्न नहीं करना है। बहुत शांत स्थिति में सब मेरी शंकाएं निवारण है, मुझे कोई प्रश्न नहीं करना है। लेकिन अच्छा मुझे क्या लगा, आप तो मैं जानता हूं आपकी चेतना को, लेकिन राजराजेश्वर गुरु जी से मुझे जब काली तारा षोडशी भुवनेश्वरी त्रिपुर भैरवी छिन्नमस्ता धूमावती बगलामुखी मातंगी कमला 10 महाविद्याओं का नाम लिया, इस विस्तार मैंने इसलिए कर दिया कि इन चीजों को जानने वाले लोग हैं, कादी विद्या, आदि विद्या, बीज मंत्र, इन सबको बताते हैं। अच्छा लगा रॉबर्ट्स का जब उन्होंने कहा कि अपवित्र पवित्रो वा सर्वावस्थांगोत विवाह यस्मित पुंडरी का अक्षम स्वभा या अभ्यंतर शुचि, अपनी भाषा में मैं बहुत प्रभावित हूं। बीज मंत्र, आप तो ज्योतिष के बारे में भी उन्होंने बहुत बताया। मैं शास्त्रों के बारे में बता के कोई प्रभावित नहीं करना चाहता, तो धन्यवाद दूंगा। मैं भाग्यशाली या दुर्भाग्यशाली दोनों ही समझता हूं कि मैं ऐसी स्थिति से गुजरा ही नहीं कि जहां हिंदू धर्म पे इतना अविश्वास किया जाए या उसको ये आवश्यकता हो कि मैं साइंटिफिकली बताऊं। बहुत ही स्थापित जब मैं तो उस बात से पढ़ता हूं मनुस्मृति में कि एतद् देश प्रसूतस्य सकाशात् अग्र जन्मनः स्वम स्वम चरित्रम शिक्षेरन पृथिव्याम सर्व मानवाः। मैं इतने दृढ़ विश्वास के साथ अपने सनातन धर्म को मानता हूं कि पुराने से पुराने लोग अपने से शिक्षा प्राप्त करते रहे। तो मैं आपको धन्यवाद देता हूं। मेरा कोई प्रश्न नहीं है, मैं आपसे शिक्षा ही प्राप्त कर रहा हूं कि क्या क्या शंकाएं हो सकती हैं, तो मैं भी इसमें आगे इस बारे में सोचूंगा। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you. So wonderful and so precise. May I invite Dr. Chand Bharadwaj ji. He's our guru too, a very knowledgeable man. I heard, I learned a lot about mind, and when he said that wherever your attention goes, your mind goes, and he has done a lot of great work in scientific interpretation of Vedic science. Dr. Bharadwaj ji, please. share
Thank
your
you very
wisdom.
much, Shuklaji. Thank you very much, and all the speakers who have given so much of divine knowledge to all of us. Now, the basic point, as you were rightly mentioning, and Pandeyji also said, that our scriptures are so enriched. If somebody goes through them, he can understand the nitty-gritties of it. So no need to tell the youngsters through science and logic. Unfortunately, we can't give all those scriptures to our younger generation because they do not know the language, number one, and there is nobody who can really teach them this. So my point is that how we tell the younger generation all this knowledge which all the speakers talked, and what Pandeyji also mentioned about it, I would like to say something little different, here. It is something wonderful to understand that how all those things are happening. Now you can see on my screen, there is a camera moving into the sky, which is rather scanning the whole sky, and this beautiful picture the science has come out with, that the whole cosmos has been scanned by these cameras for many years, and something wonderful has emerged out of that. It's a huge big ball kind of a thing, like a baseball, the visible universe we are talking about. Now this visible universe basically has got three basics in it. And this is the whole knowledge embedded in this. This is what is all energy which has really produced it, and how that small little particle of light created this huge big, the whole universe. And it has all started from a small little atom, which is smaller than an atom, and it is expanding. So that is how the whole thing is going on, and that is what the whole cosmos is made of. So what I was trying to tell you is that the whole cosmos has got three basics. This is how we can tell the younger generation, and then they will start learning about the Indian scriptures where all the knowledge is embedded, and it is something wonderful. So now we must excite the students to understand this. So basically giving them some clues in the beginning so that it attracts them to go through this knowledge. Now, I would like to give this clue to the younger generation that the whole cosmos is one living entity, and it has got three basics: floating material bodies in it, and then gravitational magnetic field which operates the whole cosmos from its beginning till its end, up to Mahapralay, when it started and when it is going to finish. Now this universal mind, I would like to call that, and it is embedded with information system, 2G, 3G, 6G, internet is all operative from that, plus laws of nature. If apple falls down, the Newton calculates the laws of nature. Third thing, which is now my German friend was mentioning here, it is particle and wave. So particle and wave theory means there was a particle of that light in the beginning, and that became from one to many ekam bahusham. So this is how it all started, and that energy which from that particle is so huge that the whole cosmos is made out of that only. So this is like light and sound, because particle and wave means light and sound. So these vibrations, which Shuklaji been telling about, now this is spreading everywhere. Shabde dharti, shabde akash, shabad shabad bhaya prakash. As he was saying about the God is light and the word was made flesh. So this is what is that. Even in Quran they said, Noor and Kalma. In our scriptures it is Jyoti and Shruti. So this light, which is particle and wave, because science has proved now recently that the particle behaves intelligently. It becomes a particle or a wave anytime, anywhere. So this intelligent being, because the creation is an intelligent design, that's how we can tell the students, the younger generation. So now understanding that absolute intelligence and a capable force, how it became from one to many, and you are part of that, because each soul is connected to its source. And particle and wave confirms this part, that each one of us is an intelligent being, and we are connected to our source in real time. So how we acquired the mind from the universal mind and used that causal mind and causal body, which was a sketch, to feel the creation. And then we finally refined it all into an astral mind and an astral body, finally physical mind and a physical body. So how we as creators, part of the creator, and then we have acquired the mind and created the body from a single cell, something wonderful emerged, in our findings, how life starts. Life starts, it is synthesis of proteins. Proteins are compounds of elements. So if you add a drop of amino acid into the proteins, only then the life starts. Now, how amino acids are made? If light and sound strikes on pure elements, converts them into amino acids, and amino acids synthesize the proteins. And then the life started from a single cell, which had got those three basics which are there in the cosmos: floating material bodies, the universal mind, and the absolute. Now, in that small single cell, there is a material body, there is a mind, and then there is a creative intelligence in that. And that single cell has got the ability, like God itself, because our scriptures start with Ekam Bahusham. It was one and alone, and it became from one to many. So that is how, from that single cell, we graduated to the crown of creation, the human body. And that's how the whole thing is coming up. Even Jyotish, as my German friend was talking about it, how the configuration of stars, how Maharishi Mahesh Yogi worked on it, that how the brain is connected with the cosmos. So I would like to say that the universal mind operates your mind through all those causal and astral minds, because it is operating the whole cosmos through high tide, low tide. The human body has got 75-80% water in here. This water, it goes ups and downs due to those gravitational magnetic fields and triggers certain parts of your brain. The neurosciences confirm that part. There are different components in the body, in the brain, they are triggered. And that is how our behaviors come. Now, basically, our Indian system is so rich that if we can give them those clues through science to look into that, and this is what will open a floodgate for people to understand things. What I'm trying to say in the modern context, I'll close my comments, on this, that the outer expression of your creative intelligence, which is your soul, which is connected to its source, is your attention. And attention is like an omni-scanner. And this creative intelligence, which is connected to absolute, will produce, use the information of the mind and the whole cosmos, the universal mind, etc., and the material composition, whatever we have created out of those vibrations and that energy, which is having these three things, can create artificial intelligence, which is the requirement of the day. Now, this absolute intelligence capable force, which is connected to you as a creative intelligence, only that can create artificial intelligence. And this is how we would like to tell the students, the younger generation, to use that absolute intelligence and a capable force, as Divakarji been saying, that wherever the attention goes, the divine energy flows. Even in yajna, once you do your yajna, what really happens, that you have got certain bhava in the mantra. And that bhava, you make that bhav into pradhansa bhav and convert it into that fire and ash. So what happens? That this bhav has gone into atyant abhav. It has gone into the very, fire and ash, etc. But what really happens? That again it rises from a nyuna bhav to parag bhav, which goes to the whole cosmos. But the carrier here is your attention, because attention is that omni-scanner, which is representing the absolute. It carries through that fire and makes it into a parag bhav to go everywhere. So now there are certain nitty-gritties here, that how in the mother's womb, that single cell named zygote has got all the information of mother and father, and there is a creative intelligence in that, and the material is drawn by the mother's womb. Now this cell is becoming from one to many. The God is playing there, Ekam Bahusham. And then all these cells will go to the location of the heart, And this particular cell zygote will get transformed into a cell of a heart. And it will start multiplying there from one to many again and create the whole heart. The same cell goes to the kidney, develops your kidney because it has got all that information. Yeah, what will be the color of the eyes and what will be the features and all, everything is there in that zygote cell. All that information, that what kind of a kidney it needs, whether it will be diseased or not. So now the same cell goes to the eye, and eye is more complex than your brain. So this is how your creative intelligence in that cell is developing the whole system. Now, if the child, if the student knows that there is something wonderful to understand, that how attention operates, how the information is being worked on, because we have developed that concept to tell the students, based on co-aim theory in practice, means that correlation of your attention, information is your mind and laws of nature embedded in it, and the material. So co-aim, correlation of attention, A for attention, I for information, which is your mind, and M for material, which is your body. So how this attention, which is real time connected all the time, and how to really, this attention is going through your body, through your mind, all that information, past and future, then crosses through 100 trillion cells and goes downwards and outwards into the world through the senses of your body. And this which has gone out has to be withdrawn, Basically, it is not to be focused. So meditation is not focusing of attention. What it is withdrawal of attention from the whole thing, because it has gone out through your senses, whatever you had seen, even your childhood, whatever you have heard or anything, tasted. So all through these senses, it has gone downwards and outwards into the world. What really has to be done, what the student has to be told, that how to really know all the Vedic knowledge by meditating, because it is already there. All that information of the whole universe is there. It is only because your attention is like an omniscanner, which can study almost everything. So once you keep withdrawing this, where to withdraw? From the body, then from the mind, which is running into past and future, then to the location from where it operates, because 83% attention gets diffused through the eyes, 13-14% through the ears, and remaining senses of the body. So these two eyes have got two optical nerves running in, and where these two optical nerves meet, that is your third eye, where you got to withdraw your attention and you are already connected with the absolute. So this is how a gush of knowledge will come to the students, and they will understand these nitty-gritties, that the creation is an intelligent design. So let us know a little more on this intelligence, and then where they will come? Only onto the Indian scriptures. They have got tremendous amount of knowledge, and this is what we should rather motivate all the students to know, and this is what is the basis of today's topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bharadwaj. What a wonderful information you have shared in such a short period of time. So what we learned today from you, that 70 to 80% information is in front of your eyes, and rest, auditory, kinesthetic, etc. And what you also mentioned, something which is very interesting, and I just connected with, what I heard from Shankaracharya ji of Puri, what he said, that he used to see the book in front of him, not even reading. So he used to scan and everything, so he's a scientist himself. So whatever you're saying, I mean, it's all there are so many evidences for that. So thanks a lot, Dr. Saab. I mean, I know that you're writing a lot of books and then a lot of work you're doing, and we'll love to hear a little bit more, and we'll continue with our next panelist. Dr. Kamna Vishal Sharma, could you please share your views, or do you have any questions? Dr. Kamna Vimal Sharma, ji, you there? Dr. Aparna Dhir ji, Dr. Aparna Dhir Khandelwal, are you around?
Unmute yourself.
Okay.
Sir, can I start with my question?
Yeah, sure.
आप सभी को नमस्ते. I would like to extend my gratitude to all the esteemed speakers and the organizers present here for organizing this very important, very relevant Parisamvad on this very significant topic that has enlightened us all. I would like to point my question to Shri Adarni Shri Raj Rajeshwarji Guruji. May I, sir?
Raj Rajeshwarji, because he had
Guruji?
another conference, so he has left. But we have a,
Okay.
we
I
have a
request,
great expert here in we have a great scholars here as well. So
okay,
you
let
can
me
put
place
your
my
question.
question and our esteemed speakers may answer it. But very beautifully and very impressively, Raj Rajeshwar Guruji has explained the Hindu Dharma and Sanatan Dharma, but he has Vaktavya. As the representative of Yuva Work, I would like to know whether there is some difference between the two, the Hindu Dharma and the Sanatan Dharma, and is there, if there is no difference, that then is there any interconnection between the two? I also have a query. If you allow me, I can pose that as well.
Sure, sure.
Sanatan Vedic Dharma has been open to explanations and interpretations, and due to that, there have been many traditions that have arisen from the Sanatan Dharma. Haven't those multiple disciplines or multiple traditions damaged the original form of the Vedic Dharma, Sanatan Vedic Dharma, and has kept the younger generation disconnected from it? This is my query. Has this plurality of the Sanatan Dharma damaged it?
I think, I mean, I can just share something, and then maybe we can ask more experts. So basically, most of the religions, if you see in the world, they have one book and one prophet, right? Like whether you talk about Christianity or whether you talk about Islam or so on. Hinduism is the only religion which gives you the freedom to choose. For example, you're in Delhi and you want to go to Mumbai. You have so many choices. You can walk, you can take the train, you can use the bus, or you can fly, or whatever. Choices are there. That's the difference between Hindu and Sanatan. Sanatan Dharma is expression. Sanatan Dharma is like eternal. So what we talked about, that as Sanatan is eternal, it is always there, it is not going to be lost. So as a matter of fact, what you're asking, whether having the plural means so many different philosophies, different thoughts, different gods, different puja paddhati, whether it has been a barrier or it has been challenged or it is an opportunity or it is good for us. In my opinion, Hinduism survived only because we have given the freedom. And we got so much freedom in our life that if you connect to Ma Kali, you can connect to Ma Kali, you want to connect with Lord Shiva or Ram or whoever. And the challenges what we have received out of it, because we do not have one guru, we don't have one book, we don't have one prophet. That means that people get confused about it. But then again, what we talked about, like when Norbert was talking about Satchidananda, like the dharma, the real meaning of dharma is to धारण करना. तो जैसे हम किस चीज को धारण करना चाहते हैं, जैसे मनुष्य, human being, as a human, we want to have ananda. We are Sukhdharmi. Whatever we do in our life, even you were attending this conference, you had so many other choices, but you decided to attend this because you wanted to get something out of it, right? That's how the human, the Sanatan Dharma hai, usko dharm bolta hai. It's not, there's no proper English translation of dharma into religion. Religion is completely, in my understanding, religion is a little bit not a right interpretation of dharma. But that's my thought. If there's anybody else who wants to comment on it, I know Rajeshwar ji is not there. Norbert, do you want to say something? Or Dr. Chan Bharadwaj ji, or
Yes.
I know that Dr. Ganesh ji is there, Dr. Pandey ji is there. If there's something you want to share in a very quick way.
Please.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, Norbert. Yeah, you want to say something? Yeah.
Yes. I think again, the original disadvantage to be not Indian is an advantage here. And I would like to take the Sanatana Dharma question to give an example of the different level of understanding. If you're outside the Hindu culture, religious upbringing, in the West, we don't have that. But Western people are using yagya. Now we are looking at what is yagya. Now in Indian understanding, it is a religious practice which is part of the Sanatana Dharma or part of the Hindu Sanatana Dharma version. Let's call it version. If it was a religion only, it cannot work for unbelievers. Any religion you want to join, you will be asked by some priests, by some pundits, by some experts, how is the reason you're coming all the time out of nowhere? All of a sudden you want to become Christian or Jewish or some religion you can join. So they always ask about faith. Unless you show that you have faith and you want to develop faith, no religion will accept you. Now, if this was true for yagya, it could not work for Western people who have no understanding neither of Hinduism nor Sanatana Dharma. But it does work. So if it works without faith, by definition, it is not religion, but scientific, because it has a hypothesis, it has a prescribed proceedings that you have to follow, and there is a result that is predicted to manifest. So it's purely scientific. And that doesn't mean it is not a religious practice for a Hindu, because he has all the love and the attention and the upbringing to really appreciate it. But nevertheless, it does work for unbelievers who are not familiar with the thought system, who are not familiar with the Sanatana Dharma. And I translate the Sanatana Dharma for Western people, that I tell them Sanatana is the eternal cycle that is repeating itself, evolving out of itself. And Dharma is the laws of nature. Even an atheist has to accept there's gravity, there's day and night, there's fluid in the body. It's beyond discussion. And that you get older instead of younger, it's also law of nature. That is the lowest level of understanding of Dharma on a materialistic side. And then the next level is to understand the what you call maturity, wisdom of life. After 50, 60, 70 years, you look different at life because you made some experience. You add that to gravity, electromagnetism, and the things you've learned in school and in life, in business. And then, of course, then the spiritual level starts, where, as call it religious, call it devotee, call it Indian by birth, you have a certain devotion to this. You'll be brought into this. And I think, therefore, Sanatana Dharma, that will be my final answer, is a universal reality for everybody at any time, anywhere. The difference is you were lucky to be the custodians on this earth for the mankind. And therefore, again, I couldn't agree more that we have to find a way to trigger the Indian youth to make them understand that Sanatana Dharma is the most sexiest thing in the world and not an iPhone or travel to the US or UK.
How wonderful. I think you presented it so well. Let me share something which I heard from Shankaracharya ji. What he said, that when we are born, we are like a jeev. Jeev got a pragya, means gyan, and we have a pran shakti, means karma. And gyan and karma makes you prani, means being. And when you have a pragya and prana, that then when it is combined, this is what is called Sanatan. And that's why Sanatan is the eternal truth, and it can work with anybody. No religion, I mean, any religion, any human being can follow, and they need to be, or they have to be, or they have certain beliefs, or if they don't have any belief, they're all Sanatani. So that's so wonderfully, answered by Norbert. I'm really thankful. May I hope this should satisfy you, Dr. Kamnaji. May I invite now Dr. Aparna Khandelwalji. Dr. Aparna Dheer Khandelwalji.
Very good evening to all of you. This is really a very informative session, and we have learned a lot as a youngster. But जैसे कि डॉक्टर दिवाकर शुक्ल जी ने कहा है कि आपने अभी जैसे बताया था कि we have already studied in our Vedic literature, especially in the Brahman Granthas, that we have 33 koti devtas, and all are basically the natural forces which we can either प्रत्यक्ष रूप से हम देख सकते हैं या अप्रत्यक्ष रूप से. Okay, we believe in natural forces as a young generation. Now the question is, as Dr. Azad Kaushik ji said, that there is a lot of disconnect in today's present India. So my question is related to that only, that we have too much Vidhi Vidhan in Indian dharmic traditions. Like today is Saturday, do this. आज मंडे है, आज ये करना है, आज ट्यूसडे, आज ये करना है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल सैटरडे है, आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड दैट सैटर्न इज अ प्लैनेट एंड उनको प्लीज करने के लिए वी हैव टू डू सो मेनी थिंग्स. लेकिन क्या मैं कहना नहीं चाहती, मैं खुद भी बिलीवर हूँ, लेकिन आई डोंट नो कि मैं कितनी ट्रूली बिलीव करती हूँ या नहीं. लेकिन मेरा क्वेश्चन सभी पैनलिस्ट से है, जब हम बहुत ज्यादा ऑयल, मस्टर्ड ऑयल चढ़ाते रहते हैं, कील अर्पण करेंगे, काला कपड़ा अर्पण करते हैं, इस तरह के विधि विधान, अगर यही हम थर्सडे का फास्ट रखें तो हमें कहते हैं केले की पूजा करेंगे. केला जो है हम सबको पता है ट्री है, बनाना है, उसकी अपनी मेडिसिनल प्रॉपर्टीज है, ओके. लेकिन जब हम केले के पेड़ के नीचे केला दाल, शायद चने की दाल भी चढ़ाते हैं, या और भी कुछ अर्पण करते हैं, तिलक, चावल इत्यादि कुछ भी, तो वो सब जो चीजें हैं फिर उसे हम फास्ट से रिलेट करते हैं. तो दिस इज वेरी जनरल क्वेश्चन कि हम एज अ यंगर जनरेशन सोचते हैं कि should we believe these traditions as superstitions, should we follow them like that only, like our parents said, or there should be any practical or scientific reason or aspect attached to these vidhi vidhan? That is my question, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Bhardwaj, do you like to reply to that, or Norbert?
Well, I would like to say that all these rituals, have been created later on, whereas they must be having some very specific meanings which all of you as Vedic scholars should find out with the basics, that how this attention is being used to put it into an habit forming, so that you can remain connected with the absolute and start understanding that how you have to go through your daily life. As in Lord Krishna is telling in the 7th chapter, second shloka, that he is going to give you a knowledge, and this knowledge, after knowing, nothing remains to be known except living that knowledge and exploring it into your day-to-day life. So now you have made certain rituals, because some of the rituals are not original ones, which have been rather added into by the Brahmins to look into those rituals, that how one particular community can remember that absolute by doing all these rituals. Because the mind has to understand this part, that by repeating certain mantras or rituals, etc., basically you are connected, you are representing the absolute here in real time, and mind is providing information. So even if we can reduce these rituals to a certain realistic things which have got scientific meanings, this is the job of all the scholars like Aparna Dheer and all other scholars, that you should work through science. I suggested that there should be a person from the scientific background, and there should be a person from Vedic knowledge. and maybe another fellow who knows English, or anyone out of them knows English. So you should have a PhD degree for two together, because they are doing research together. So I think to find out what rituals have got what meaning and how they will do, and how you are putting those rice there, because rice is practically money, because this is what people used to have. And that's how I think you have to find out this area. And in the system, in the rituals, we have got many clues, I think. And all of you can really work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhardwaj. So, Aparnaji, I think it goes back
Sir.
to you now, because that says that you need to really understand. But everything what Dr. Bhardwaj said, that your intention. So, for example, when your Brihaspati is weak, or you're offering the mustard oil to Saturn, it means that your intentions are connected to that planet. Planets got certain vibrations and energy. They have an impact on your physical and emotional well-being. And somehow when your attention is there, you're connected to that, it can bring certain subtle benefits to you. So I think rituals are quite significant, but I think what we need to do is to understand more scientific interpretation of that.
Perhaps Mr. Robert wants to say something. Yes,
Dr. Robert.
please welcome Mr. Robert.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I understood from the lady's question. I heard Chani, I heard mustard seeds. I know about these remedies, and I understood that it's about bridging into the young generation, taking it out of belief corner and bringing it into scientific spotlight. I would like to show you, I hope you can see this. This is a scan of a brain, and it is giving allocation of the planets. And this is the other side, where you have the brain parts according to the grahas, to the influence of the planets. And this is how I explain it to the Western people when they start Upaya. And again, they are further away of thinking it's an old belief of grandpa, which is not up to date. They haven't heard about it. For them, it's like nuts, believing in energy fields that work into you and out of you, and with mantras they cannot pronounce. So I have to get their confidence first. And the way I do this, I tell them, imagine you are a host of a panel, and there's 100 neurologists, and there's 100 Jyotishis, astrologers. And your target is to explain what is the brain or what is the solar system on an average level of public, not on scientific academia. So and now you start, think about how would you do this? You are not a doctor, you're a normal girl. And you say, oh my God, I have no idea about this nor that. And how would you start? You say, okay, who is starting? You guys. And then the guy starts developing about the brain. He says, well, I'm talking to normal people. Well, there is some part in the brain that is called thalamus. And if the brain was a country, you could call this the capital. Everything that's decided sooner or later is coming there or coming from there. And you could say all the rest is subordinate, blah, 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 blah. And then you say, well, fine, I understand that. That's great. It's not so difficult as I thought. And now you give it to the Jyotish people and they will say, thank you, Dr. So-and-so. I'll just go along with your thought. We call the same thing that you call thalamus, we call it the sun. It is also the capital, it's the biggest thing, it's in the center, everything surrounds it. Nothing happens with the other planets unless the sun is allowing it through its power. And then you go hypothalamus, Chandra, vegetative system, hormones, the entire cycle. So this is ultimate scientific. And each and every time you go a step further, the Indian person will remember his grandma. And he will remember why he has to wear black or not to wear black. Because she has been doing this all the time. But he has never understood. and grandma wasn't able to give an academia or Western up to date understanding that the young person usually is going to college for, to gain, just to become back to be more confused. So this is, I think, the time where we can unify this, where we can make it up to date, where we can make it a practical reality. And we can show the people, and again, I'm coming back to the Guru Chandala aspect. It was so beautiful how Dr. Shukl would explain this. It is the mirage and the reality. And due to this Guru Chandala Yoga effect on the world, we are first time able to see in what kind of world we are living. And it's not a nice one, as all of us know, whatever background we might have. And I think this is the historical chance to turn the history of mankind upside down as far as the past is concerned. And we can do this only by understanding the value of consciousness, and we can do this only by unifying mythology and science. And there was no better time to do this than today with quantum physics and neurobiology in the West. This is the proof of ultimate subjectivity of life, of what we call Chaitanya and Vedanta. So it's all prepared. It's up to us to take the ball and start the game. And if we don't do it, who will do it? And if India is not leading, who will lead?
Thank you, Dr. Norbert.
So
Well,
just
wonderfully said.
wanted to add a line. Yeah, that I feel that there is a need of interdisciplinary studies in both in Vedic and scientific approaches, because
That's what
science ka apna chal raha hai and Ved ka apna chal raha hai, and both need to be connected. Like Professor Norbert said, that this is the time then that India should rise and India should talk about these issues. So I feel with this webinar, we should start thinking on this platform also, on this issue also.
We'll give you this responsibility. So you're the one who has to coordinate it. Because in India, it says that jo bole wo darwaja khole. So it means that you're the one who has to do it. May I invite Dr. Vikas? Kunda khole. Dr. Vikas Sharma, are you there? Do you have any question, Dr. Vikas Sharma? Or any comment, Dr. Vikas Sharma? Is he around or not?
He should be here. He was there in the starting.
Right. Okay. Can you just check whether he's here?
Sir, let me call him. Till then, we can take questions from the audience if we have time.
I think Dr. Tiwari
Dharma is not visible.
He's not visible. So I think, do we have time for taking the questions?
Dr. Shashi
Dr. Shashi Tiwari ji
wants to say something. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just hear out.
Yeah, the discussion which was going on here in that reference, I want to add one thing more, that in Hinduism, everything is okay. My sound is going there?
Yes.
Yeah. You're fully audible.
So in Hinduism, there is a lot of symbolism also. We should remember that everything which is used in any karma kanda is a representative of any aspect or any concept or any function or anything, any quality or any bad quality, maybe. So they are representative only. As she talked about two types of dal. One is yellow, one is black. So black is connected with Shani and yellow is connected with the Guruvar. So in the gap of time, due to the gap of time, people used to forget what concept, as in general public today, general people are following Shanivar ko ye karna hai, is din ye karna hai. But they have forgotten the concepts behind them. And if they want to know, they have to go to the person who knows. So from unknown to known, they can understand. But by the time, if they are not having any time, they should follow those things to get the benefit of the karma kanda.
Thank you, Dr.
And
Tiwari.
there is a line in German scholars bio, some I have seen in the website also. He has said that from karma kanda, no one can achieve enlightenment. So half of this is true, but I don't think it is completely true according to the Upanishads. So is he available to comment on this?
Norbert, are you there to comment on that? What, Norbert, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
Dr. Tiwari is asking that in
You
your
have written somewhere in your website that from karmas, from activities,
Karam
actions prescribed in the scriptures, no one can attain enlightenment.
I request Mr. Robert.
Well, I'm sorry, but I didn't write that on my webpage.
Okay.
I wrote, I quoted Lord Krishna.
No, there are so many quotations. There are so many quotations in your name.
No, then it's another website. My website is lifeformula.com. And there is no quotes except know that by knowing which everything is known. That is the only quote on my website.
Yes, Dr. Bharadwaj.
I can't answer. Okay.
Yeah, I would like to say a few words on this, you know. As you said, rituals won't give you an emancipation. That is what you are saying. And I would like to say that now, luckily, the Indian scriptures have made certain steps, you know, to reach that thing. So you can't go from say there are 10 steps. And in those steps, you know, you can't go from 9th to 10th straight away without going from number 1 to 8th, you know. So you got to do all this. I think the rituals will form these habits in your life so that you are connected and you are all the time monitoring what mind is saying, because mind and body together will create emotions and emotions will create terrorists. And the Gita tells you to become a nirmohi. So that is what has to be understood. And then how the rituals will train the mind, because mind is shrewd enough. It keeps on indulging into the body pleasures, you know. So now to tame that shrew fellow, all these rituals are there. And through these rituals, if you go stepwise, and then the emancipation can be had, you know.
Professor
So,
Bhudev Sharma ji wants to say something. Professor Bhudev Sharma ji. Yes, please.
Pranam ji. Pranam.
Well, it's a very enlightening discussion, I tell you, and the input. However, it seems to me that while we are discussing some of these things, our major theme, that was that how to scientifically explain to the youth Hinduism so that they can bring it as a matter of, some kind of, respect and follow up and all that and all that. That I think may not have got enough, what you say, coverage and all that and all that. And I thought that being the main thing in our mind, if I could say something and some people can comment or our experts can comment, on that. One thing which I feel is that there are certain practices and there are certain rituals. Havan could be one, yajna could be one, could be others and all that we can identify. We must scientifically explain, because the word science has been used for devising that kind of a thing. So we should be able to devise, develop those things, scientifically, so that the younger people, once they know or their parents know, they can implement that particular part or convince the children to follow that part of this and all that. So that is one suggestion that I would like, that rituals and practices In terms of practices, I would like to go that we recommend 16 sanskaras. Out of 16 sanskaras, we know that about 3 of them are before birth of the child. Out of 16, only 1 is left after the marriage, which is death. So basically, these are all meant for different kind of preparation of the youth for facing the activity of life, starting from birth to going up to marriage and all that, and then thereafter taking responsibilities of the children that they grow. So there has to be a proper explanation. Some of these may be emphasized. For example, the Vidya Arambha and the Yagyopavita in particular, I would like to emphasize that Yagyopavita is one, which is at the center of so many other things that we follow on daily basis and all that. So that was the other thing that I thought that I would like to do. Somebody may like to do and all that. Then the question is that there have to be certain what you can call as life and stories of the main persons in the religion. Shankaracharya could be one, there could be other persons, some authorities and all that at different stages. We have to also of the younger people. Swami Vivekananda, I mean, a person who had got, from worldwide, died young. And there are so many other persons who have, during the young, Shankaracharya himself, the Adi Shankaracharya, the story, and some of these persons, they have great stories and they have done something which is very, very specific and all that. Particularly, I can like to mention that Murti Puja is one which is criticized. Now, this criticism has to be answered because we are doing it very widely. The question is, how do you ultimately, the younger people who hear so much complaint of so much of the discrimination of the Murti Puja and all that, one has to be. In USA, I may tell that I have spent long years, abroad, particularly in USA. And Professor Norbert, I may like to tell that I was in Germany also at the University of Bielefeld. Of course, my field is mathematics, and I was in collaboration with some of the mathematicians there. They invited me. So I spent some good time and had some good friends in Germany. So that's a good, part of, that I could share with Professor Norbert and all that. And I would like that our experts who we select, we could form a body where they can be persons who can prepare some material or some life or other things for different stages of the children and all that. So that was the other thing that I thought. And I thought that there have to be Indians scholars. There are a couple of books which have been written by foreigners. They are in good, let's say, support of the Hinduism, but there is a lot which is negative. And there is, particularly in some of the, I would not like to name, but so there are some persons who have been writing in a very false manner. There is so much criticism and all that. Somehow they have to be counted. Academically, anyone giving, because in Western universities in USA and all that, the people of the Department of Religion and all that, and so culture, there is a lot of material which is published. And we, for example, I spent quite some time, and the waves, as you all know, ultimately was one of the very successful kind of an initiative which took in this fashion. Also, I like that one of my friends, in the informal discussion, he was saying, while the Muslims are doing this kind of a thing, they have, for the children, kind of, what they call some, schools and all that, where they, everybody learns, Quran and all that. I said, yes. And know this, that this is something for the youth, for our youth, which is a practice, of course, in Karnataka, because I came in touch with people from Karnataka. What they do is that in particular, they are particularly, some of the Brahmins that I talked to about, they follow the practice that every child after the birth, he will go to pathshalas. They were pathshalas, and they would go through some of the rituals and some of the sacraments and all that, in those pathshalas. So it takes a very firm root right in the beginning. The schools going is the later thing. There is earlier, preparation and corporate and things that have got to be formed. So I think that could be the other thing. And Professor Kaushik has probably left, but he mentioned about Ramanujam very strongly. And I like to share with, with my friends here that when I was in Atlanta, we found that Ramanujam is a anywhere I go as a mathematician, any university in the world, and I visited so many countries and all that. My PhD students are in several countries, outside and all that. So I had a good opportunity of interacting with my own, profession people. They are, I mean, about 4 of them are in USA, and then there are some in Brazil, some in, Canada. There is one in Canada also, and all that. So what I mean to say is that they follow a practice of, the thing, and we should learn the same thing, that unless they have some kind of a initial faith, slowly building faith and conviction, that and they should also be able to counter. For example, in USA, I had a friend who was a medical doctor, in fact, and later on, of course, he became as a medical doctor, but earlier ages, they will come and talk to him, USA, some of the, the Christians and all that, that you have the Murti Puja kind of a thing and all that. But he said, but you also do it, but you put the man who is on the cross and dying, you go and pray to him, while in Hinduism we pray all beautiful and very charming, kind of characters and all that and all that. So I feel that there has to be some scholarly, work which has to be undertaken by the group of persons. And I when I was talking to Dr. Divakar Shukul, I mentioned that this has to be just not finished in talks, but there has to be some concrete steps that have to be taken. And there may be thereafter some research projects, some joint research projects, because there are some persons like Sanskrit is a language which most of the scientists may not be in touch with and all that. So there can be some joint projects, but authentic. And some of the critical things that keep on coming, there has to be a concerted efforts to attack on them, and see that it is not the what Indology. I discussed this idea to influence the people in the academic world. The Britishers created a discipline of Indology. And who were the experts in Indology? Not the Sanskritis in India. There is no department of Indology or any stream within Indian universities even today. But they all scholars of Indology, they were abroad. So anybody who will do some research and all that in the area which they call as Indology will ultimately have the comments from the expert from abroad and from US, from UK and all. You can go into this. I have read some of these things and all that. They became the authority. The other persons started quoting their references for the various kind of things, because they became the authority in the area. So that is a very good thing. And I feel that the Ramayana and Mahabharata, these are two very, very deep in their all, and also for children, the what is that that the children, the story of the animals and other things, Panchatantra. These are also the books which I think may be put in a different. The important thing is not just telling, but telling in a fashion that it goes deeper into their mind, and they become they get respect and regard for for the Hinduism, and as such there is a book which I read, Dick Tracy, Lost Discoveries, and how he started. In the preface it is written that he found that some of the Hindus and the Chinese and all that are writing in terms of, criticizing Europe, as if Europe has not made any, contributions while the Chinese and Indians have made. And he started research on that. And after going deep into research, he found that they have not done enough. He could come out with very many more contributions of Hindus and of course Chinese also. There is some chapters about that, who have not been in any way or the other and all that. So there is very Dick Tracy. I have quoted his work, in some of my articles and all that, what he has said about it. And that's why he said lost discoveries. So some discoveries that were made by Hindus, and they were lost. Nobody talked about them. Even Hindus don't talk about them, and they are the great ones. And or some of those, whether this is consciousness or this is some other area and all that. Well, there could be, a very intense kind of a thing, which is required. And I have already requested Dr. Divakar Sukul to think about, framing an international kind of a thing. We succeeded very well in USA. So with these comments, I think that you may consider in some way or the other about my observations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma ji. I mean, you're a guru for us and inspiration for us. So we'll definitely work on it. I mean, when you said about something like Panchkarma, Panchtantra, we know in psychology there's something called neurolinguistic programming. There we talk about metaphors. Metaphors are all about stories which goes into your subconscious mind and create a very big impression in your life. And in last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, we lost all that tradition, and it is important that we need to bring it back. I'm concerned about the time, so may I just invite Mr. K.K. Dixit ji to take over and offer the vote of thanks and then close the ceremony, please. Close the symposium. Thank you.
Please unmute me. Namaskar, Dr. Divakar.
Thank you, sir.
कि कितना समय और चलाया जाए, 6:45 बज रहा है इसे.
Yeah, we don't have much time, so I think, and आपका जो voice है वो break होता है बीच में से. If you can just make sure that your mic is connected properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ठीक आ रही है?
हाँ, अभी ठीक है. जी.
देखिए, बड़ा अच्छा डिस्कशन रहा और हम लोग लगभग नियत समय से 45 मिनट आगे चले गए हैं, लेकिन एक व्यवस्था रहती है, तो मैं 2 मिनट के लिए केवल आभार जताने के लिए गणेश दत्त शर्मा जी से निवेदन करूंगा कि 2 मिनट में वो अपनी बात कह लें. श्री गणेश दत्त शर्मा जी, अगर मेरी बात सुन रहे हो. लगता है नहीं शर्मा जी. श्री जीएम अगर मेरी बात सुन रहे हो तो वो आ गए 2 मिनट में.
डॉक्टर गणेश दत्त शर्मा जी, मेरी आवाज सुन रहे हो तो
सर का विंडो तो है, लेकिन सर अभी शायद उठ के गए हैं अपनी सीट से, ऐसा दिख रहा है उसमें.
जीएम अग्रवाल साहब से ललन प्रसाद साहब दिखाई दे रहे हैं. लगता है काफी लोग चले गए हैं.
ललन प्रसाद जी हैं.
केवल 2 मिनट.
हेलो.
हाँ.
हेलो.
हाँ जी, आवाज आ रही है आपकी.
आवाज आ रही है हमारी? आवाज जा रही है मेरी?
लल्लन प्रसाद जी आपकी आवाज।
हाँ जी, आवाज जा रही है मेरी?
जी हाँ, 2 मिनट में आप आशीर्वाद दें।
हाँ
जी
दिवाकर जी ने बड़े अच्छे ढंग से संचालन किया है और बहुत स्कॉलरली टॉक्स हमने सुने कौशिक जी के और स्वामी जी के और मिस्टर रॉबर्ट्स के और बाकी वक्ताओं के भी। मैं समझता हूँ कि डॉक्टर भूदेव शर्मा ने जो बातें कही हैं वो बहुत प्रैक्टिकल है, उसके ऊपर हमें ध्यान देना चाहिए। देखिए, हमारे समाज में 2 तरह के लोग हैं। एक तो ये है कि जो ट्रेडिशंस को और रिचुअल्स को एज इट इज एक्सेप्ट करते हैं, जो कुछ चला आ रहा है हमारे पूर्वजों से और हमारे खानदान में जो कुछ होता रहा है परिवार में, हम उसको मान लेते हैं। उसके पीछे क्या लॉजिक है, उसके पीछे क्या विज्ञान है, हम कभी उसको चैलेंज नहीं करते। और जैसे पांडे जी ने कहा कि आई हैव नो क्वेश्चन, तो बहुत से ऐसे लोग हैं हमारे समाज में। एक बड़ा तबका है जिसके लिए जो कुछ भी रिचुअल्स हमारे हैं वो सब मान्य है, उसके पीछे कोई तर्क ढूंढने की आवश्यकता नहीं। दूसरा एक तबका जो हमारे समाज में है और खास तौर से हमारा जो यंग जनरेशन है, वो इन चीजों को इस तरह से मानने को तैयार नहीं होता और वो हर चीज में ये बात पूछता है कि इसके पीछे क्या लॉजिक है। अब अगर शादी में 7 फेरे होते हैं तो 7 फेरे क्यों होते हैं, 9 फेरे क्यों नहीं होते, 11 फेरे क्यों नहीं होते? अगर अग्नि के साक्षी दी जाती तो अग्नि को क्यों साक्षी दी जाती? मैंने इस तरह के बहुत सारे सवाल हैं। मैंने इंटरनेट पर देखा, किसी ने कुछ जवाब दिए हैं, कोई 20 एक प्रश्न उसके सामने थे और मुझे बड़ा अच्छा लगा कि उन्होंने कुछ चीजें बड़ी अच्छी बताई उसमें। जैसे सिंदूर औरतें क्यों लगाती हैं, या बिछुआ क्यों पहनती हैं, या मंदिर में घंटा क्यों रखा जाता है। तो ये चीजें ऐसी है कि इसके ऊपर कुछ एक तो रिसर्च करने की आवश्यकता है और एक बहुत डीप स्टडी होनी चाहिए इसकी, और फिर उसको देश की विभिन्न भाषाओं में प्रसारित करने की आवश्यकता है कि जो हमारे रिचुअल्स हैं और जो हमारे ट्रेडिशंस हैं उनके पीछे क्या लॉजिक है। क्योंकि आज का जो पढ़ा लिखा समाज है वो इन चीज़ों को उतनी आसानी से नहीं मानता। वो मिस्टर रॉबर्ट ने बड़ी अच्छी बात कही, मैं उनकी बात से सहमत हूँ कि जो वेस्टर्न एजुकेशन है, इट हैज कंफ्यूज द यूथ, और यूथ इस बात को समझ नहीं पा रहा है कि सच्चाई कहाँ है। उसके ऊपर जो चीज लाद दी जाती है और जो बात उसको कह दी जाती है वही उसको मान लेता है। तो इस तरह से हम अपने यंग जनरेशन को कैसे शिक्षित करें, तो इसके लिए हमें इस तरह का लिटरेचर तैयार करना पड़ेगा अपने डिफरेंट लैंग्वेजेस में, और एक इसकी डीप स्टडी हो कि ऐसे कौन कौन से पॉइंट्स हैं जिसके ऊपर लोगों को कंफ्यूजन होता है, हमारे रिचुअल्स पर, हमारे संस्कारों पर, हमारी जो बिलीफ्स हैं, हमारे जो रहन सहन है और जो हमारे खान पीने का तरीका है। क्योंकि हर चीज क्वेश्चनेबल हो जाती है उस स्टेज पर जाकर, और उसका आंसर देना हमारे लिए आवश्यकता है। हमारे ऋषियों ने, मनीषियों ने जो बातें कही है उन सब के पीछे साइंस है, इसमें कोई संदेह नहीं। और मैं तो ये कहूँगा कि वेदों में तो सारी सृष्टि का ज्ञान भरा हुआ है, उसमें अर्थशास्त्र भी है, उसमें ज्योतिष भी है, उसमें भौतिक विज्ञान भी है, उसमें क्या नहीं है। और हर क्षेत्र के लोगों के लिए वो एक विशाल ज्ञान का भंडार है, और वो जो भी ज्ञान का भंडार है वो बहुत लॉजिकल है। और हमारे पुराने ऋषियों की परंपरा भी थी कि वो हर चीजों को लॉजिक, हर चीजों के पीछे लॉजिक देखते थे। चाणक्य का आप देखिए, उदाहरण लीजिए, चाणक्य ने अपने डिफरेंट चैप्टर्स में बहुत बड़ा टोटल अर्थशास्त्र है, साइज में भी बहुत बड़ा है, इतनी बड़ी पुस्तक दुनिया में बहुत कम है, जिसके लिए एक जर्मन स्कॉलर ने कहा था कि ये पुस्तक नहीं है, ये पूरा पुस्तकालय है, ये पूरा हिंदुस्तान, पूरे हिंदुस्तान की संस्कृति है इसके अंदर। तो उसमें जगह जगह चाणक्य ने लिखा है कि महर्षि याज्ञवल्क्य ने ये कहा, या महर्षि या बृहस्पति ने ये कहा, या शुक्राचार्य ने ये कहा, मैं इनसे सहमत हूँ। और जहाँ वो सहमत नहीं होते तो वहाँ उन्होंने लिखा है कि मैं इससे सहमत नहीं हूँ, और क्यों मैं इससे सहमत नहीं हूँ ये उन्होंने लिखा है। मैं समझता हूँ इस तरह की बातें हमें अपने यूथ के लिए सोचना चाहिए कि हम ऐसा लिटरेचर बनाएं जो उनके सामने जाए, देश की विभिन्न भाषाओं में हो, और जो भ्रांतियां हैं या जो अविश्वास या जो आप अंधविश्वास कहने या जो भी है, उन चीजों का निराकरण होना चाहिए। और इस संबंध में बड़ा अच्छा सेमिनार आपने किया, और जो वक्ता भी आपने चुने बहुत ही उच्च कोटि के थे, और बड़ा अच्छा लगा इस सेमिनार में भाग लेके। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद ललन प्रसाद साहब। आज के सेमिनार में मुख्य बातें हम लोगों ने सुनी, लेकिन से अधिक के हैं, जबकि
आपकी आवाज जी और सुनील श्रीवास्तव जी को जरा टाइम दे दीजिएगा 2 मिनट का प्लीज। आपकी आवाज फिर से नहीं आ रही है। इसको
श्रीवास्तव जी को समय दिया जा रहा है
जी। तो तुषार मुखर्जी एंड सुनील श्रीवास्तव जी अगर हो तो वो डॉक्टर तिवारी कह रही थी कि they want to share something मुंबई से या कहीं से। तुषार जी, are you there?
Please come on. Yes, please, तुषार मुखर्जी।
सभी मान्यवरों को नमस्कार। मेरी आवाज आ रही है सर?
Yes,
सर मेरा नाम तुषार मुखर्जी है। मैं बेसिकली इलेक्ट्रिकल इंजीनियर हूँ और डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ एटॉमिक एनर्जी में एज ए साइंटिस्ट मैंने काम किया है। अभी वॉलंटरी रिटायरमेंट ले लिया है और मेरा काफ़ी इंटरेस्ट वैदिक साहित्य को पढ़ने में है। पिछले 4-5 सालों में जितना मैंने चारों वेदों का जो मैं तो संस्कृत का ज्ञाता नहीं हूँ, मैं अनुवाद ही पढ़ता हूँ, तो विभिन्न विद्वानों के अनुवादों को पढ़ता हूँ मैं और दर्शन शास्त्र का भी अध्ययन किया, उपनिषद का भी किया, भगवत गीता का भी किया। और जैसा भी भूदेव शर्मा जी बोल रहे थे और दीक्षित जी ने भी बोला कि ऐसा कोई पुस्तक होना चाहिए जिसमें हमारे जो हिंदू धार्मिक मान्यताएं हैं उसके बारे में क्लैरिटी दिया जाए कि हम ईश्वर तो निराकार है, एज पर वेदों के अनुसार ब्रह्म निराकार है, निर्गुण निराकार, फिर हम साकार पूजा कैसे करते हैं। लेकिन अगर हम उपनिषद में देखेंगे तो साकार पूजा का भी रीजनिंग दिया गया है। अगर हम सांख्य दर्शन पढ़ेंगे तो उसके अकॉर्डिंगली भी अवतार का आना जरूरी है, क्योंकि प्रकृति का काम है हमको भोग एंड अपवर्ग प्रदान करना। लेकिन अगर प्रकृति में कोई गड़बड़ी पैदा हो रही है तो उसको दूर करने के लिए अवतार को आना पड़ेगा। तो इस प्रकार निर्गुण ब्रह्म का साकार अवतार भी सांख्य दर्शन से प्रूव हो जाता है। इस प्रकार से काफी तथ्यों को मैंने इकट्ठा किया है, तो उसका पुस्तक के रूप में मुद्रण होना बाकी है। हमारे आदरणीय डॉक्टर शशि तिवारी जी को मैंने भेजा है उसको देखने के लिए, क्योंकि मैं तो संस्कृत में बिल्कुल भी मेरा नॉलेज नहीं है, मैं तो इंजीनियर हूँ। तो एक और 2-3 और संस्कृत के विद्वान हैं जो मेरे को हेल्प कर रहे हैं। तो वो पुस्तक बनेगी तो मैं आप लोगों को भेजूंगा, शायद वो कुछ इस दिशा में कर सके, ऐसा मेरा सोचना था। और आपके अभी जितने भी मैंने व्याख्यान सुने बहुत ही ज्ञानवर्धक लगा। मैं तो बहुत ही मेरी तो स्थिति नर्सरी के छात्र जैसी है संस्कृत के विद्वानों के सामने, मैं तो नर्सरी का छात्र हूँ तो बहुत ही ज्ञानवर्धक रहा और बहुत बातें जानने को मिली। और मैं शशि जी का आभारी हूँ कि उन्होंने मेरे को इसमें जोड़ा। मैं वेव्स का भी मेंबर हूँ, लेकिन शशि जी ने मेरे को बोला ज्वाइन करो, तो इट वाज ए ग्रेट अपॉर्चुनिटी। शशि जी को पुनः धन्यवाद और आप सभी मान्यवरों को धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू तुषार जी। सुनील श्रीवास्तव जी, if you're around, can you just say a few words and then I will pass it on to Dikshit ji. सुनील जी, ठीक है सर, वो नहीं है। आप can you just do the धन्यवाद ज्ञापन कर दीजिए, because we are now 6:57 पे आ गए हम लोग, and it is a time to close, I believe. And
धन्यवाद डॉक्टर। मेरे बगल में
आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है।
हेलो, आवाज नहीं आ रही?
अब आ रही है।
अब आ रही है।
हाँ, तो डॉक्टर ऋतुजा दीक्षित मेरी बेटी है
जी,
बताओ।
हाँ। नमस्कार, मैं मेडिकल कॉलेज में पढ़ाती हूँ। अभी फर्स्ट ईयर में मैं अपना एक्सपीरियंस शेयर कर रही हूँ बस आधे मिनट में। कल हमें परोपकार या एल्ट्रुइज्म के बारे में नए स्टूडेंट्स को, नए बैच को पढ़ाना था। हमें बताना था कि क्यों डॉक्टरों को परोपकारी या एल्ट्रुइस्टिक होना चाहिए। जिन्होंने आपने शायद आप लोगों को पता होगा कि कैसे उन्होंने बाज से जब बाज ने कहा कि आपने मेरा भोजन ले लिया, तो उन्होंने जान का मांस कबूतर के बराबर वेट का बेंच के ऊपर रख दिया और फिर फाइनली ये हुआ कि उनको खुद ही बैठना पड़ा, क्लास में शेयर की। और फिर मैंने बच्चों से कहा कि सभी लोग, चाहे वो किसी भी रिलीजन के हों, चाहे वो मुस्लिम हो, हिंदू हो, सिख हो, सभी लोग अपने अपने पेरेंट्स और ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स से एक एक परोपकार के बारे में धार्मिक कथा सुनकर आएंगे और उसको अपने शब्दों में लिखेंगे। हमें अपने एजुकेशन सिस्टम में अपने रिलीजन को कैसे रेलेवेंट बनाना है, ये चीज बहुत जरूरी है कि बच्चों को ये बताना बहुत जरूरी है कि ये शिक्षाएं परोपकार वगैरह की आज भी रेलेवेंट हैं, तभी ये सक्सेसफुल हो सकता है। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद। वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड, थैंक यू।
धन्यवाद ज्ञापन के लिए। क्योंकि हमारे बड़े कई वक्ता जो है, इला कुमार जी हैं और बालेश्वर त्यागी, राजेश ठाकुर भी आए हुए थे, तो मैं क्षमा मांगते हुए धन्यवाद ज्ञापन के लिए बढ़ रहा हूँ। सबसे पहले तो मैं डॉक्टर शशि तिवारी जी को और डॉक्टर दिवाकर,
आपकी आवाज जरा प्लीज देख लीजिए, माइक पे बोलिए तो थोड़ा आवाज आएगी आपकी, प्लीज। नहीं, बहुत अच्छी नहीं आ रही, लेकिन चलिए बोलिए।
मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि मीटिंग दोबारा अरेंज की जाएगी। जो जितने लोग हैं उनको धन्यवाद। सवाला और बीच में थोड़ी सी ये हुई कि हमारा किसी ने माइक हैक कर लिया, ये उसको मानते हुए कि जब अच्छाई होती है तो वहां बात में लगा, तो उसने कहा कि जब जब धर्म की बात उठेगी आकर के उसको रोकूंगा। क्षमा मांगते हुए सब लोगों से क्षमा मांगते हैं और सबको ये निवेदन करता हूं कि बड़ी कृपा की आपने, इस प्रकार दोबारा मीटिंग हम लोग बुलाएंगे। अच्छा, विशेष रूप से तो हैं कुसुमाकर शुक्ल जी के पिताजी के नाम है और उनके पुत्र कुसुमाकर शुक्ल जी और उनके पुत्र से उनका धन्यवाद। मीटिंग एंड की जाए। शशि जी,
अब जैसा कि दीक्षित जी ने कहा है, हम सभा को समाप्ति की ओर ले जा रहे हैं और मैं समझती हूँ शांति पाठ एक कर देना पर्याप्त होना चाहिए। ठीक है, जैसा आप
नहीं, शांति पाठ बहुत जरूरी है।
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति।